The story begins and we watch some popular kids at a school making their way through hallway, and everyone was gossiping about them, that how good their match made from heaven. Then we got introduced to Suzuno Inukami as a student council president and Kazuki Ryumen as vice president. Then we see our regular protagonist who doesn't consider himself as one of these people, and his name is Usato. Then we see Usato is such an ugly loser that he got his opening spotlight stolen from this anime, and it is just an average high school boy with zero friends, zero girls. So the only thing of interest that happens to him all day is about finding a nest of a baby bird, and that may be an outcast, but he is at least as kind one. So he helps the bird back to their nest and says that they can pay him back later if they want to. But then he realizes that he's talking to a bunch of birds, and then he leaves before it gets any weirder. So he envies all the other impressive high school students and wishes to be that he could be like them as well. So at least get some friends so he doesn't have to talk to birds all the time. Then Usato decides it's time for him to go home, and his luck's getting worse and worse as he goes to his locker and finds that someone has taken his umbrella. And then he spots another one over that, but until for a moment he thinks about just taking it and leaving his honor stuck. But then this good guy decides that it's the beginning of a little of crime, so he decided not to take the umbrella, and that proves to be a pretty stupid decision. But he's watching for hours, and then Inukami appears out of nowhere and explains that all students are required to leave. Then this guy really is forgettable that he decided to just run home in the rain. But Suzune stops him, and it would look bad for the student council to just watch him get soaked in the rain like a loser, so Kazuki arrives and lends him a spare umbrella. Usato was certain that Kazuki didn't even know of his useless existence, and it is even more surprised that Kazuki seems to be a nice guy. And then they offer all a walk home together, and Suzune points out that it must be fate that they met. Usato's nerdy mind goes right to video game as he thinks of this moment, as suddenly going home with two of the most popular kids at a school event, he almost ruins his marvelous moment as he says that everyone in a school will be jealous. But luckily they didn't hear his utterly embarrassing comment, and then they walked with him. Then Usato tells Kazuki that he didn't expect him to be nice because he only ever sees him as playboy rising up the ladies, and then Kazuki only talks about girls out of pity. And then Suzune roasts him by saying that he likes talking to other boys anyway. But then Suzuno is even more unapproachable for side protagonist as she is the top of her class in all subjects and great at all sports. Usato glazes her up even more and points out that she is also beautiful inside and outside. But then Usato was acting like some kind of dumb, and he asks them if they are dating, since everyone at the school talks about it, and it's pretty awkward. But then they explain that they have only spent so much time together because they are on the student council. Then Usato apologizes for the stupid question, and then he said that he definitely not have asked that. But Suzune doesn't mind, since it's better than talking behind their back. And then their conversation was continued as three of them walk, and they then started to talk about what they will do when they graduate. Then one of these dummies have a plan, but Suzuno is already a third year, but she has a huge problem that she hasn't find out what she wants to do. So she immediately completes, and she can immediately completes any goal, and she sets for herself that seemingly foreshadowing what about to happen. Then Suzuno explained that she feels like she doesn't belong to this world, and then Usato is shocked as the two of them are totally opposite people. But he understands that feeling that this boring conversation has him wishing that he would pay a visit to another world as well. But then they all stop when two student council member hear bell ringing, and the ringing gets louder and louder, but Usato doesn't hear a single. Just as Usato approaches the other, a magic circle appears on the ground, and he wonders if it's a gate to another world. And instead of being terrified, Suzune looks like a psycho and wonders if what she thinks is going to happen in actual, and they think that they will find magic monster and heroes in this other world. Usato is shocked that she's into that kind of stuff, but the time is up and they are taken away. Then Usato eventually wakes up and finds out that they are sitting in front of King, and the boys are rightfully terrified and cautious, but something is wrong with Suzuno's brain as she only feels excitement. She realizes that this is a fantasy and she's loving. If the king notices that they have all finally woken, so he starts talking what they gets cut off. Kazuki, who's rightfully wants to know what is going on, and then Aga tells Kazuki that he's being impatient towards the king. But the king says it's fine, and it since he did just basically kidnap a bunch of kids, he apologizes to them but asks why they at least hear him out. They make their judgment on what to do from here. So he introduced himself as King Lloyd of the Linger Kingdom. And Inokami is only getting more excited as he talks. He goes on explain that they were summoned to this kingdom as heroes. And Inokami was on the floor for the sheer excitement, and the king said that demon has laid siege in this kingdom, and with a combined effort they were successfully able to repel him. But for now, since the demon lord is surely strengthening his army right now, they probably won't be so lucky next time. Thus they decided it might be necessary to take a drastic measure and turns to the forbidden spells of a past so that allow them to summon heroes into this world with the potential to oppose the demon lord. That is very plausible story. But Kazuki is missing the part where that becomes his problem, and he was just living his life a moment ago, and now he is being asked to fight for some demon lord, and he is supposed to be okay with it, but he had a good life and a family that he loves, so he wants to send back to his world. But the king apologizes again and tells him that the summoning spells only work in one direction, and it isn't opposite to send them back right now. This isn't good enough for Kazuki to get angrier, but then he gets reminded that he is surrounded by armed guard who serve the king. So picking a fight here won't get him anywhere. The king gets down from his throne and walks up to three before kneeling. Before them, he swears that he will find a way to send them back to their original world in the near future, but in the meantime, he asks that they must lend him their power to help the kingdom and its people. Inokami was excited for a bit and asked the king why he keeps referring to them as heroes, even though he has no information on them. So his assistant explained that the hero summoning magic circle contains a spell that seeks out individuals who could have potential to be becoming a hero, which is why they could hear a bell sound before they are summoned. But that just means that Inokami and Kazuki were all intended targets. Usato was just dragged along the ride, and it's a potential hero be cut out of magic aptitude evaluation. Then they will be talking and then instruct them to place their hand on a magic orb to determine their attribute and its strength. While Inokami is taking her turn, Kazuki asks Suzune if he really isn't angry about the way things turned out for him, but only he summoned here against his will, and it trapped him by accident here too. But luckily for him, the king eventually accepts responsibility for this action, and despite the likelihood that Usato might just be a regular dude, he is still being treated well. Besides, Welsi told him that there is still a chance that he might be able to use magic. After all, he might as well try. Usato is taking this a lot better than Kazuki was expecting, and then there is Inokami who is still itching to get her grubby little fingers all over the ball. Once the preparations are complete, Inokami places her hand on the crystal ball and it begins to glow with a brilliant yellow. This is indicative that it's a thunder element and also reveals that she has a huge mana. Next up is Kazuki, and once he touches it, it begins to glow pure white, and this is one of the most rare abilities because only a few people can wield its light magic and its natural weakness against demon, so it will be a powerful asset in a war against them. And last up is Usato, but he doesn't have all that much hope that he will be powerful. He just wants an ability that will allow him to be useful to his friends. And then he touches the orb and it begins to glow with a beautiful emerald green color. So he asks Welsi what it means, but she gets freaks out and she grabs him, go inform the king of what just happened. She burst into the throne room to meet the king and ask what happened. So she says that Kazuki and Inokami both have great magic aptitude. What real issue is with Usato magic? The king doesn't understand what the big deal is, and the joke that it wouldn't even be that bad if Usato's magic was dark element, but Welsi mentioned that his aptitude test so green, and the king's face immediately goes on, oh, this is bad. With how they are reacting, us wonders if he might be radioactivity or something. But it's something worse, that the king starts making plans to relocate Usato somewhere else for his own safety. Then Usato asks if his ability is really that rare, but there is actually someone else who has it, and it is the problem because she's a major bad news. As if that woman they were talking about burst into the throne room. Everyone who knows her has a look of fear on their face, but Rose is just being diligent in her service to the king, and she was supposed to be on a vacation right now, but she decided to come in and check on the status of summoning ritual. She spots Usato there and asks if he is the one of the heroes, but the king trying to draw her attention elsewhere, saying that he is just a random kid who got caught up in the summoning ritual by accident. Then Rose believes him and introduces himself to Usato as the captain of Kingdom's rescue squad. Belchi then redirects her attention to the crystal ballroom where Inokami and Kazuki are watching. So Rose begins to leave much of the relief of King, and he tells Usato that they will figure out what to do with him later. But for now, they will provide him with suitable accommodation. However, Usato still has many questions and he would like to be answered, since he have never learned what kind of magic green is meant to. And that's unfortunately, this was shared with an air shot, and Rose, after hearing, realizes that the magic is green, and she immediately makes a move to kidnap the boy. The king indicates a code red and asks Welsi to get Usato out of here, and this is for his own good. So she forms a magic bubble, and then Rose has him racing out of castle at high speed, but is always for a manhunt, and she chases after him with an amazing speed, and she catches up to the bubble with a single punch. She bursts it along with the entirely of Usato's intestinal tract from the courtyard. She tells the king that she will be taking Usato, but he doesn't need to worry because she still turned him into a proper healer with her training. The king can do nothing but watch as Usato gets abducted, and the news is later broken to Inukami and Kazuki, and they ask if he is in any danger, but it's not like there is a threat of him dying, but there will definitely be psychological damage inflicted, and green signifies healing magic, which is extremely rare for one to possess. So Rose is a healing magic user herself who took Usato to train him and how to use its only problem is that her training methods are a little well violent, and her safety requirements breaks a few restrictions. Then we learn that Rose has ability of a healer, and she plans to train him to become one, which is why she brought him here. She calls out the boys to meet Usato, and in an instant he is surrounded by 5 big burly guys who pinned against a wall, and it's missing now is a camera and a white couch. So Rose kicks one of them and says that they shouldn't scare Usato. So she carries on with an explanation to these guys that he is going to be a part of rescue squad. But there are 2 other healers in the rescue squad, but they are stationed elsewhere right now. So Rose is going to take on his training personally, and to put it lightly, Usato is screwed big time there, and it wasn't much he could do about the situation. So he comes to just sleep it off and see what's happened, and when he awakens the next day, he finds that he is still in this world, and other members of the rescue squad who are currently getting breakfast ready come into his room and tells Usato that he has visitors here. So he was surprised to hear that, and he goes to find out Inukami and Kazuki have come to check on him, and he got worried that they had a green-haired lady just grabbed Usato and left, but it seems actually isn't in any serious danger from his current condition, and he tells them that he is fine. He is still truly screwed because that walking tag of a woman is going to personally train him, and he may be alive right now, but there is no telling that he will still be breathing by tomorrow. The other asks if training is really that bad. From what he has heard about it, it's actually that bad that he seems oddly calm about his fate, since he already resolved himself to complete the training no matter what it does to him, and there is nothing better for him to be doing anyway, so he might as well put up with it, and since it will give him a chance to not to be useless in another world. And he finds that he says to be inspiring and makes a promise to do her best with her training as well, and that lifts Usato's spirit a bit, and he starts thinking about the kind of cool hero training they might be doing. Then the 2 later leave the rescue outpost to return to their training and for the day, and they go to things that those 2 are amazing and adjusting in this world so quickly if possible. He would like to become someone who can help them in their various battles as heroes, which is why he is going to give his all to the training. And then Rose startles our boy, but she points out that this isn't a prison and he can see whoever he wishes. However, that only applies to when he is not training, and she gives him a journal so he can record his daily training regiment and how he feels about it. After that, they will have breakfast first, and Usato can't believe that the training from hell will really be starting now. After breakfast, training begins, but Usato doesn't think it is actually that bad. Rose just have him feel mana in his body and tells him to work on drawing out it. Now he needs to perfect sensing, so she has do him some reading. Usato is shocked to see that he can read the other language, and it's because he summoned heroes automatic translation magic cast on them. Rose shows how close the demon territory is to the kingdom and explains that this is why they are always the demon's first target. This book has a bunch of information about the demons and the other races in this world, so she leaves him to do a studying first day of training, and the day of training seemed quite easy, so he is sure that he will able to handle it. Then the day of training is much more difficult than he expected, and it's a lot of running, and wonders if it's really what magic training is all about. Then on day 3, Usato is forced to run until his muscles are so sore that he can't move, and he eventually collapses. But Rose wonders what he thinks he is doing. Then Usato explains that his legs won't move anymore, but she gives him a good smack, and he is shocked to realize that she has healed his sore muscles. Then Rose keeps the intensity up by calling our boy trash, and she commands him to continue running until he is going to die, and then she tells him that run like he is going to die, and she will revive him so he can keep running. Usato knows that he can't tell her how crazy that sounds, so he plans to write it in his journal. On day 4, Usato begins training with the other member, so he ends up falling behind by an entire lap. Everyone was trash talking him for falling behind. He just words can't talk back, so he decided that he will have to write it in his journal. Day 5 and 6 has more running with Rose braiding him. Then Usato's anger was building inside him and he once again planned to give Rose hell in his journal. Just then Usato was shocked to see the light of healing magic on his hand training, and so the training is tough but not enough to need healing. So it goes away on day 7 and Usato ran until he thought he would die again. And Rose beat him up, so she seems angry than usual. So he wonders if she has found out what he has written in his journal. Then he realizes that she can't read Japanese and wonders if she can just tell by the look on his face that he talks bullshit about her in his little diary. Then Rose launches him into the sky so he can start running again, and Usato vows to call her a vicious gorilla in his journal. And then day 8, it is more like the same, but on the day 9 he realizes that to heal himself, he is surprised to see that he managed to heal his entire body, and instead of just the part that hurt. Usato realizes that he was wrong about healing magic, and in fact it was really does need it. So on day 10 Usato explained that he doesn't get tired anymore no matter how much he runs, since he can now manifest healing magic. He actually gets concerned about he has been doing is running. Then Usato questions if he will be able to help his friends at this rate. Then he knows that Rose would just punch him right in his stupid face if he tried to voice his concern to her. Rose is upset and he gives Usato another 30 laps to run, so Usato decides in his mind that he no longer call her Miss Rose, she doesn't deserve anymore. Then on day 11 the training regiment gets a new addition, push-ups. Usato gets all the way into the 800 and Rose finally reveals why Usato is training this way, so that he can run from his entire enemies as quickly as possible in the battle, and this way he can save his injured allies. She explained that the faster he runs, the faster he can save them, and on day 12 he ran until moon and then he did push-ups for the night. On day 13 Rose caught on the first that Usato was starting to feel lighter, so she added actual weight, and on day 14 Usato launch get missing and one of his meatheads admit to eat it. Usato loses his cool and finally strikes back. He has already gotten used to the weights and he has finally started to get the hang of training, and then a week later Usato friends come to visit him and they are shocked to see how much he had changed in such a short time, and this kid is doing some really intense push-ups and Rose is telling him not to whine about doing something. So Usato eventually doesn't whine on one bit and even goes far to say that doing push-up with her on his back is easy because she is so light. Rose is amused by his reach and tosses another stone on his back. Usato is extremely determined, so his body started to heal and he is able to complete the push-up. Rose is pleased with his progress and determines that she will be able to take him to a certain place sooner than she thought. Suzuno is amazed with our boy newly developed muscles, and Kazuki acknowledges just how brutal the training is. Some dude named Siglis is furious with Rose and now he thinks that she is destroying Usato. Rose tells him that she does things much differently than the knights do, and she is turning Usato into her right hand man. She needs him to train hard since it will be a problem if he can't handle this. Then Usato is surprised to hear what she wants him as her right hand, so she explained that it's because she likes how he can't stand to lose and he never gives up, and most importantly he was able to give her training. Usato realizes that he wanted her to teach a lesson and that has backfired in the worst way. Rose tells him to take a break with the friends and they are told to go with some chick named Celia to take a break, and Siglis tells Rose that he was ordered to bring her. He refuses to do it now, though Rose says that it doesn't matter anyway since her right eye is totally useless at their lunch. And at the lunch break Usato learns that Siglis commands the kingdom's army as he is the strongest knight in the kingdom, and he is the one who is teaching Usato's friend how to sword fight. Usato just now realizes that Celia is the princess and apologizes for behaving so casually. They enjoy some kind of pie things. Kazuki wonders if Usato really does that of training every day. Then Usato tells him that today was different, but that's only because today was easier. Kazuki explained that their training is going well, but it's not as tough as Usato's. Then Suzuno has lost her mind apparently, and she interrupts their conversation to take a look at Usato's muscles. This dude is seriously sad now, but Kazuki settles things down by acting like if the training isn't too tough for Usato. Usato admits that it's extremely tough and he wanted to run away at first, but Rose is just as scary as ever and he doesn't want to run anymore. The training is actually starting to get fun for him and he has realized that life there isn't that bad. Then Usato's friend thinks that he is amazing, but he just explained that what he is stubborn The two of them will have to fight one day, so he wants to be able to support them. And they all joke around about how Suzuno is a beardo and the big guy that ate Usato's lunch has made a meal to replace it. Usato clearly still has a grudge as he begins to talk just like all the other meatheads. And they begin to argue. Usato is a real hothead now, and as the argument quickly turns into a fight and a big guy promised to knock our boy out, so Usato would really like to see him try, and they both start throwing hands. Usato will probably win since he can heal himself and the other guy can't, but the other wonder if they should intervene or something. Then Kazuki thinks it is time since Usato seems to be having fun, so this is probably him at the happiest. He could be knowing that Usato is alright and he decides it is time to go back to the castle and continue his training. So they all go to follow him back. As Inuzaki is about to leave, she thinks of herself that there must have been a reason that Usato got pulled into this world with them, so they should all try their hardest to become the best version of themselves. And here that night, after beating up the lunch thief, Usato takes a bath and thinks to himself that he is glad he got to see Inukami and Kazuki, although Inukami kind of creeped him out back there with how she was looking at his body. But then again, he can't blame her because his body is awesome, right? And he's faster, stronger, better, and all this is result of the training he has constantly been doing and pushing his body to its very limit, then healing it back with magic for an incredibly fast growth rate. But even with his unbelievable muscles gain, he doesn't know if it will be enough to save people on the battle. Then the next day, Usato is told that he will be heading out with Rose for the day, and others know what this means for Usato, but he is still obvious, so he follows Rose out of the kingdom and into the forest. There she tells him that he is not allowed to come until he has killed a grand grizzly bear. And I don't think Usato ever actually learned how to fight, but Rose doesn't seem to care and she just tosses him into the forest with no assistance or guidance of any kind. On the top of that, Usato doesn't exactly have fly hack enabled, so unless he does something quick, we are going to have cut the season short as he is about to hit the ground, and he turns ground to face his problems and proclaims he won't let himself die here as he stretches his arms to break the fall. And while he ends up surviving, he has got at least 2 new elbows after that one. He takes a moment to heal his broken body and comes to terms with the fact that he is now stuck in this forest until he kills a grand grizzly bear. Rose has asked him so he could still just leave without killing one, but he would have to deal with Rose, and Usato would much better handle a bear than her. Besides, it's just 2-meter tall giant with razor claws. How bad could it be? Is actually pretty bad. After all, the bear is much bigger than he had thought it would be, and looking at it close, it's terrifying, so he backs out and uses his family's secret technique. He's sure that all his running practice should be able to outrun the bear with ease, but the bear never skipped leg day either, and seeing that he won't be able to outrun the bear anytime soon, he thinks back all of the hellish training he survived and grew enough confidence to turn around and tell the bear, "Come at me." However, this was never a fair fight to begin with, as the bear had 2 others there to jump on Usato's ass. He turned back around and kept running like his life depends on it, and he runs after he heard a sound of rushing waterfall, so he decided to use that to his advantage and escape the bears by leaping off a cliff and into the water. The bears stand and watch to see him if he comes back, but after losing interest, they all bark off, leaving Usato alive. Meanwhile, Usato makes it out of the river and hangs his clothes up to dry as he finally takes a look what he has in his bag, and he see that he has given nothing but bare essential for survival: some water and a knife and some bread that can also substitute for a weapon to deliver blunt force trauma. He still don't know what he is going to manage to take a grand grizzly, but there is no use worrying about that now as it has gotten too late to do anything more, so Usato just decides he will deal with it tomorrow and covers himself so he can safely get some sleep. The next morning, he heads out and begins strategizing for takedown of the grizzly bear, and the first thing on the agenda is to find out the thing where it lives so he can plan. He begins making his way through the forest and marking out his path so he doesn't get lost, and when he comes across some bear claw marking on a tree nearby, he starts worrying that the bear might nearby right now. However, as he draws his knife in preparation for a fight, all he sees is a head of little bunny looking at him, as the bunny appears to be hurt on its back foot, and even though he is still in a survival situation, Usato decides he would nice and he will heal the bunny so it can live another day, and he gets back to his hunt for the grizzly. But now he has more problem that the little bunny start following him around, and he tried to tell it to leave him alone, but the bunny keeps following him around until he tells it to stop unless it knows where to find a grand grizzly. And to his surprise, the bunny exactly knows where to find them, and he proceeds Usato to lead to the exact location of the grizzly bear. They were currently sleeping for now, and he decided it would be best to just observe rather than going straight for the stealth. So he heads back to the camp, and on day 3 for his trial, he is now forced to drink untreated river water, which I'm sure won't have lasting effect. While he was collecting some, and Bunny comes up to him again and wanted to spend time together. So Usato agrees as long as he doesn't do anything rash while they are watching the bears again. There were no significant changes as the behavior pattern of the bears, and watching them act normal. Usato is starting to find them to be really cute, and it also helps that he has this cute Bunny around to accompany him. So he is having a bit of fun, and it's day 4 and Usato is no longer having any fun. He just spent all morning his guts out thanks to that untreated river water and healing magic. It has no effect on his current health, but on the other source, at this rate he is going to be done in by water. While waiting in pain, the Bunny comes over to check on him, and Usato is happy that he gets to see Bunny befriended before he dies of water poisoning. But the Bunny is more than just a cute companion, and he was actually has a valuable information about the area, and he leads Usato to a pool of clean water in front of. It may not be perfect, but it's definitely a whole lot better than river water. Just then the Bunny starts acting really weird and climbs up into a tree and escapes for some reason. Usato doesn't know what is wrong, but he assumes that he can't be anything good, so he gets into the tree with a Bunny, and it was sensing a predator is approaching. But what kind of monster could it be that reacts so strongly? While it did seem to care, they were watching the grizzly bear. He hit his answer soon after he sees giant snake just crushing through the forest while looking for something to kill. This wasn't in the forest guide, but he can tell that he must never go near that thing if he hopes to be able to survive this forest. As the snake passes, he breathes a sigh of relief and goes back to his normal routine. 4 days have passed since he encountered that giant snake in the forest, and he has finally started to get over the fear that it has caused, and it has kept on watching those grizzly bears and still finds them really cute. But the fact still remains, if he doesn't kill the grizzly bear, Rose won't let him go home. So he inevitably going to need to kill that bear. Sooner or later he decided that he will finally do something about that tomorrow, and then tomorrow comes and his Bunny friend keeps pleading with him not to go ride. But Usato needs to do this no matter what. So far, Bunny hasn't failed Usato yet, so he agrees to stay back at least until the rain stops. As the rain settles down, Usato heads off to finish what he has thrown in here. And to do, he walks toward the den of the grizzly bear, but he was surprised when he gets there and finds that something else already beat him down, and that killed the grand grizzly. From the look of the bite marks on the body of the bear, it must have been the snake that did this to them. And what worse is that the snake was clearly just itching to kill something, since it clearly didn't kill them for food or because a scary healer lady is forcing him to do it. The baby bear tried to get his parents wake up, but they are dead. Usato hates losing, which is why he kept up with Rose's unreasonable training methods. But more than that, he hates the scene of the baby bear losing its parent like this. So he swears to avenge it, which is pretty ironic considering that he was coming here specifically to kill him. Before back in the kingdom, Inukami and Kazuki go to visit Usato again, and they are told that he isn't here at this moment. He has been out for training in the forest for the past 10 days and so far, but Kazuki thinks that it is a bit too long, so just with training, they start getting the details of Usato's training regiment, but the guys didn't want to give him any details without Rose's permission. So Kazuki is still really worried about Usato, but Inukami doesn't seem all that bothered since she knows more about Usato that he will be fine. Meanwhile, Usato is preparing for war out in the forest, and after making sure he is ready, he asks the Bunny to show him the way to the giant snake. Understanding this, the Bunny is hesitant to go anywhere near the snake, but Usato is sure that it won't have to stay here. It all has to do is lead him there so he can fight, and Bunny agrees, and eventually Usato come across the den of the giant snake and finds the baby bear who just received his first defeat on his entire career. After trying to avenge his parents, he even has the scar on character development. Then Usato is scared at the sight of the snake, but he's sure that he would defeat it, so he's going to do. Besides, nothing is scarier than Rose, as it shouldn't be that bad, so he runs forward and tries to stab the snake in the face, but he nearly got his face bitten off in the process, and he managed to evade and stab the snake in the eye, successfully creating a blind spot for further attacks. However, the snake anticipated this, and Usato fell into a trap for it, and he bit its arm, but just as the snake thought he had won, he found out that Usato has his second health bar, and he managed to do some good damage to the snake. But now he has got problem of being poisoned. Luckily, he is about to die earlier from poison, and that taught him a valuable lesson to how to deal with poison. As a healer, if your insides have been affected, then just use healing magic to replace your inside. And having neutralized the effect of the poison, he runs forward to attack once more, and the baby bear is already on its power-up arc as it holds the snake in place, allowing Usato to get on top of it and brings it down with a skull-cracking punch, and he then drags the spear through its brain until the snake finally stops moving, and he believes that the battle has just been won. Usato collapses on the ground and gets approached by the bear, who has now reached to become friends. And he was grateful to Usato for avenging its parent, but Usato can't heal any of its injuries since it's completely replacing his insides, and it takes a lot of magic power to do so he can barely move anymore. Just then, the snake revealed that it also has a second health bar, and with that, Usato not being able to move, he curses Rose's name as he is about to be killed, and just leave before he dies, Rose comes crashing down from the sky and finishes off the snake by craving its skull. Usato is confused why she is here. Then Rose has been waiting outside the forest this entire time in case something bad happened, and that bunny that was following Usato around was actually her pet. All day long, she never actually expected him to win a fight against a grizzly even the best of the kingdom's knight wouldn't be able to handle alone. So he just can't stand. What she wanted was just to him to gain some experience by fighting a stronger monster. But then this demon snake showed up and ruined it. So it was a modified monster made by the demon's army during their last invasion. Siglis failed to finish it off, so it somehow ended up here, and she had to say that she is literally impressed by how well Usato did against it. In regards to his training, he passed the flying colors, so she carries him to the out of the forest back to the cliff top. She is proud of how much he has grown and tells him that he has the right to stand beside her on the battlefield, and he is everything she is looking for a strong body, high pain tolerance, and a strong will to go on, though he still lacks a battle experience. They had to make it in time with the training because the demon army will be making their move soon. And upon hearing that news, Usato believes that she means that war will going to break out soon. And he is correct in the assessment, as when the war inevitably arrives, he will be having the task of healing the injured one on the battleground, and that means that he is going to have to go into the front lines. Usato is a bit nervous about being on the front line. As of war, he asks why the other two healers can't handle the front lines instead of him. While there are no other healers, Rose says that they have other places where they are best suited, which is code for those two, and they are wimps. But Usato, he has what it takes to keep up with Rose, and for that reason he will indispensable to the lives of the soldiers who will relying on him with no pressure. But yeah, a lot of pressure in any case. Usato still has some time before he needs to start worrying about that, and he was hopefully by then he will be ready. Meanwhile, on the demon continent, the demon kings ask one of his generals how the preparation for the planned invasion are going, and it looks like there will be a delay in their plans, so he does expect to win, but it was worth being cautious since the kingdom was able to repel their forces, even if only temporarily. But he puts his general in command and tells her that while he doesn't expect her to fight to the death out there, but she had better at least come back with a ratio above. She promises to live up the expectation, and she is dismissed from the meeting. She excites him into corridor of the demon castle and gets teased about being nervous in front of the king by her fellow general. She has better things to do. Then she gets teased by furious doctor, so she begins to walk off. However, Haruk tells her that this last animal experiment is going clearly, and she could come back to check it out if she wants to. Curiosity got better, and she decided to go and take a look of what kind of monster that the doctor has cooked up this time. And it's a giant snake with potent venom, but this just has something same as the one made last time, and it won't end up escaping after they fought a lot of their budget into the last one that was defeated by a knight named Siglis and ended up escaping. But there is no need to worry, as he is the one far stronger than the last. Doctor certainly hopes that since there is no threat in the kingdom, there is no far greater than that. Celia Haruk knows that what she is referring to, as she heard the rumors as well, and they are called the kidnapper since they just run out of the battlefield and snatch up any of the wounded people. And their region, the Linger, has been able to hold its ground, and it's thanks to the work of those rescuers that minimize their casualty. And not only that, but their boss is a healer as well, so she is able to get wounded soldier into the fight with her abnormally fearsome healing abilities. A healer has no business and one shooting bosses out of the field. But do you think Rose give a damn about Amila's master? And Rose may have some history, so Amila hopes that she is able to kill her with her own hands. If they have ever crossed paths. Unfortunately, that won't be anytime soon. As she was put in charge of the battle, she's not going to be taking part in the battle, the front line, and they are going to handle by that guy over there, the immortal dark magic user. Meanwhile, everything has finally settled back into a normal life, and it was just glad to have a bed again. Early that morning, he heads over the pen to wake up his bear companion, and as it wake up, he offers it some fruits that he found in the dining room, and it seems it like it a lot, and Usato try to bite the fruit, and it apparently tastes a lot better than it looks. But the bunny that was spying on him, Rose wants a bite of it, and as well, he hasn't forgiven it for betraying him. Yet again, it's a very cute bunny, and that gives bunny some fruit as well. But that makes the bear jealous, so Usato gives Blurin to the name, and Rose comes up to him and is judging Usato harder for his choice of the name for the bear. But in case she told the king about the bear, and they had a budget extension to take care of the bear, so Blurin is officially the property of our rescue squad. But that also means that he is going to be forced to pull his own weight around here. But in actually, Usato is the one who is pulling all of the Blurin's weight, and he is now carrying him on the back for the training. Rose says that this is necessary to stimulate the situation where he will be carrying a person's body on his back and running through a battlefield. Rose told him to start running already, so Usato sets off on his stimulated battle run. So he is running, and then he is literally get attacked by the rest of the Esco squad, who were tasked with the recreating the condition of a battlefield. So they all going to after him, and for the entire duration of the run of an hour after the initial attack, Usato gets surprise attacked again by one of the guys that pop out of the ground, and others throwing poop butter at him. Many other things are thrown at Usato, but he is able to dodge and evade most of them with ease. However, as 6 hours drag on the field, he is as much tired as he normally would be at this point, and he ends up collapsing. He knows that he normally should be perfectly fine with the running for 6 hours straight, but his body has already given out. Rose comes to him and explains that that's the reason he feels much more tired than usual is due to all the stress, anxiety and frustration that comes with the environment of a battlefield. All of the mental anguish slowly gets away at you until you physically can't go any longer. And the best part is that there is no way around it, so you have just to get used to it. Rose heals Usato and tells him that once his magic levels have been restored, he should go into town and run around before circling the castle for the rest of the training, all while carrying Blurin. And of course, Usato does as he is instructed. As expected, people begin to stare at him, and he runs through the town carrying a blue grizzly bear, and people slowly realize that Usato is one of the member of the rescue team. So now they start, it's nothing to be worried about. Blurin nose picks up a good scent, and he wakes up to tell Usato to follow the scent, which ends up leading him to a stall where the delicious fruit from that morning is being sold. Usato apologizes to the ladies as he doesn't have any money on him to buy anything, but he asked what the fruit is called since he doesn't know what it is. So she informs that it is one of the country's signature fruit, and Usato has one more question he asks quite even though he is carrying a dangerous monster in his back, why people don't seem to be freaking out at all. Over this, the old lady explained that it's because they knew that he is part of the rescue squad, and they can tell it by the duty outfit that he is wearing. From time to time, the other member of the rescue squad would run through the town. If people could get used to those ugly guys, then it isn't much that can scare them anymore. And thanks to the lady for the information and promises to come back after some time and buy fruits from her. But before he leaves, the lady offers him one for free for their acquaintanceship to thank. Then he thanks her for the fruit, and he doesn't get to enjoy even a bite of it as Blurin chops down the entire thing and also beats Usato's arm. As well as Usato gets moving again, and he learns a girl is assisting the old lady, comes out and asks if the boy who just left happens to be a part of the rescue squad, and it seems like she might have some interest in him. As Usato was getting closer to the castle, he decided that he might as well visit the other since he was here anyway. But as he continued to run, a blonde man notices him and starts trying to catch up to him, but he clearly can't keep up at all, and Usato notices him as he is about to die of exhaustion, and turns out that he is also a healer. Then Usato healed this guy, and his name was Oga, and he is one of the other healers that were mentioned earlier. And while he seems quite nice compared to Usato, Rose was right, he is a wimp. Oga is really impressed that Usato can manage to keep up with Rose's training, as it was impossible for him and his sister to do, as his sister sister is other healer who is 5 years younger than him, and they run a clinic in the town and healing the citizen with their magic. However, if he is not good with healing magic, then how come he wasn't able to heal himself to recover his stamina while he was chasing Usato? But in Orga's case, he isn't just good at healing himself, but he's much better when it comes to healing others. Blurin asks what Order's role is to on the battlefield, and for most of the part he stays in the rear while the member of the rescue team bring the injured back to the healer. Usato reveals that Rose has asked him to join her out of the front lines, but honestly he doesn't know if he is out for something like that. Orga understands that Usato means and explain that in a battle as one, they are in great danger are always the knights and magicians on the front lines. This reminds that his friends fallen into a category of people who are sent to front lines and have fight where the warriors are on the battlefield, who got injured and can easily do nothing but wait for her death to come knocking. As they bleed out, their only saving grace are the healers running around to save them, and White Organs knows that it is a dangerous and exhausting job, as he also knows that Rose didn't choose someone to go out with her unless that she truly believed that he could handle. And then Orga need to get back to his clinic soon before his sister get upset with him, so he gets up to continue his training. But before he leaves, Orga asks him not to hate Rose too much since she may be a little abusive at times. But Usato leaves and Orga's sister finally shows up and scolds him for leaving without her since he has the stamina of a 5-year-old. Orga says that he is fine, but more importantly he has got to meet someone very interesting, and he's sure she will like him the next chance they get to see each other. Then Usato makes it up to the castle, and it is worried that Blurin won't be allowed inside since he is a monster, but to his surprise the king already gave permission for him to go in with the beer. Usato enters the castle and finds Inukami training with some of the knights, so they sit down and talks. Usato starts narrating the story of what happened to him while he was training all, but Inukami is too distressed by how fluffy Blurin is, and she asks if it is okay to pet him. Usato says it's fine, even if she gets her hand beaten, he can just heal her afterward. Inukami reaches her hand out to pet him, but she indeed gets beaten. After that, Usato used healing on her, and she asked if he came all the way here just to visit her, trying to get it as a reaction out of him, but he really did just come to see her and Kazuki as well. But it seems that he is not here. Right now, he went with the Siglis, and some of the other knights have gained experience in the forest, so when he comes back, it will be her turn to get experience. Usato is sure that she will do fine and tells her that as much before getting up to finish off his training for the day. That night, Usato meets with Rose and tells her that he was terrified to set foot on the battlefield, but today he realizes that he is even more terrified of losing his friend. So while he can't fight, he won't kill, he will save everyone that he can. Rose is happy to hear him say that these are the ideal of a true member of the rescue squad. The next day, Usato is woken up by a bag dropped on his chest, as the king has issued an order for him to head out, and he will accompany Inumaki on the training mission. As they head out, Usato asks Rose why he needs to accompany Inumaki on her training in the first place. After all, Kazuki had someone as powerful as Silius accompany him, so she tells him that he was actually meant to join Kazuki as well, but at the time he had just returned from the forest. She refused the king's request. However, the king sent another request from a healer, and she couldn't actually deny his request twice. So Usato needs to go now, but there is nothing to worry about since he is not going as a combat support, but he is just going in case they need a healer. And then Usato arrives at castle gates, and Inumaki is surprised to see that Usato will be joining them, and even better, she gets another chance to play with Blurin since Usato brought him along. And the real reason Blurin is here that he kept biting everyone's hands, so he can't leave it in the base. And now moving on, Inumaki decides to introduce Usato to the rest of the party as he meets Aruku the knight and Korin the mage. Usato is pretty sure that he already met the knight before, as he is right as he sees him guarding the gate in the morning. Just then Rose walks to Inukami and warns her that Usato's healing magic isn't a get out of death free card, so it can heal wounds and cure poison, but there is still limits to its capabilities. Thus she shouldn't take it for granted. But considering she was trained by Siglis, she wouldn't mean to be healed too often. Rose walks up to Inukami remarks, and she is really strong and she has never been in the military before, but hearing Rose made her salute that they get on with the expedition. And we get to look at Kazuki as he is training with the swords, and Princess comes from behind and scolds Kazgi for working his body even harder, despite being so fatigued from training. And when in this world it is clear that Celia is worried for him all about his well-being, and he assured her that he is perfectly capable of handling this much. Meanwhile, Usato hears from Inumaki that about the condition Katsuki was in. When he returned from training, he was borne out from battling monster while he cleared the forest, but he said that the battle experience was both the pain and now they are going out to do the same thing. Usato recalls what happened last night and he was in that forest, and he wonders if Blurin misses his home after being gone for this long. But speaking of Blurin, Inumaki asks if he will be waking up anytime soon, because if not, she wants to pet him normally. Something like that would be fine with how her hands are wriggling. I'm pretty sure we can classify that as a crime, but Usato is not about to let Blurin get fall dead in his sleep, so he smacks Inukami's hand. She can't believe Usato is being so cruel to her, but really she is the one to blame for acting creepy all of the time, and that ended up waking up Blurin. As he is now conscious again, Usato lets him down so he can walk on his own. Again, however, I'm not sure if you can call that weakling, seeing that Blurin is still really sleepy and Inumaki seizes the opportunity to offer him a payback ride so she can get some physical contact, and while she doesn't get to feel this, she just have to ask as it's worth it. Usato ends up having to heal her and they continue to journey while she asks her to save dangerous stunts for them, and they are in actual combat. And soon after the combat arises, Korin locates multiple entities ahead of Aruku, and he asks if it is monster, but no, it's something much worse. And people realizing that they have been found out bandits, and they come out upset their plan to ambush the party that has been ruined, and they yell at the party to hand over all their valuables, but Aruku refuses to do so. So bandit leader isn't exactly giving them much of a choice and threatens the large number of bandits that may have present. Meanwhile, Usato is what these idiots are up to, because they are clearly trying to be bandits, but they don't seem very intimidating to him. The same goes for Inumaki, who is just excited to finally get a fantasy bandit fight. The bandit takes a closer look and realizes that the group have a blue grizzly with them, and while the rest of the bandits want to do smart things and run, bandit leader urges them to stay since it's just a baby blue grizzly that may have been able to capture it alive and sell it to the black market if they are lucky. After hearing them threatens her beloved Blurin, Inumaki fires a thunderbolt at one of the bandits, and surprisingly the guy is still alive afterward. Usato praises her for her control in her blast and tells her that she is free to go wild. If any of the bandits get hurt really bad, then he will just heal them so they won't die. Thus Inumaki proceeded to electrocute all the bandits, leaving just their leader standing. While Aruku is fighting the leader, Korin detects something else coming their way, and it's pretty fast, and before Aruku can react, they are hit with a stampede of boars. Those stampede actually lives much deeper in the forest, so for them to be all the way out here, something really bad must have happened. So Blurin steps out to defend Usato, but that leaves Inumaki open to be attacked. As to save her from a painful death, Usato uses his body to protect her and gets flung several feet into the air. He uses his healing magic to regenerate all the damage that they had suffered, and they are already going to take from this fall. So he crashed through trees, and he remembers that he has been in this river before he get off into the river, and he knows there is a huge waterfall up ahead and wants Inumaki to brace herself. Usato opens his eyes to find Inumaki standing over him and trying to move his body to safety, but there is no need since Usato already healed himself and is just resting. After that, he dragged Inumaki out of the river. In any case, he wants to heal that cut on the Inumaki's face before they could find anything else, and she apologizes for having things come to this while they were training. Usato says it's fine, and if he had to be stranded with anyone, then he is glad that it was her, but still he has never would have imagined that it would end up back into this forest. As soon after he left, Inukami is confused by what he means, so Usato explained that he got into the forest a while back, so he knows that it is full of monsters even more powerful than the boars, and they got into this forest miss. They lay out everything that got on the hand. Unfortunately, they lost most of their rations and supplies, so they are in a pretty tight corner when it comes to food and water. And for the night, Inumaki asks why they can't just escape the forest right now, but from the look of the things, it will be dark soon and it might rain soon, so trying to leave the forest through all the night may be a little difficult. So now they should try to find a safe place, and they set up a camp for the night. Last time he was in the forest, he would just sleep on the tree branches, but Inumaki has never climbed a tree before since she finally heard would never let her have fun. As a compromise, Usato suggests that they head into cave instead of it, and it will shield them from the rain as well. And now they settled their shelter. Usato mentioned that it would probably probably be a good idea to get out of this soaking wet cloth. She agrees that and she goes over to a corner to change, but she gets embarrassed and thinks that Usato might peek at her. However, he hadn't even thought about doing anything like that. Later, Inumaki uses her lightning power to catch them some dinner by electrocuting the entire population of the salmon, and they start a fire so they can cook the salmon. Usato was so glad to have her around because she's really helpful in those kind of situations. He takes off his clothes to have them dry and he sits by the fire to warm a bit. Inumaki is over in the corner of the room staring at the wall, so Usato apologizes if he made her feel uncomfortable. But it's just because after staring at his muscles, she is having trouble keeping her composure, so she looks up and spots four glowing red eyes looking back at her, but rather than a spider as one would assume, it turned out to be a group of venom monkeys. Usato says he has read about these before, so they couldn't be aggressive, so it's safe to be this close to them. However, they do have venom in their name, so we should avoid touching them. Unfortunately, Inumaki never learned to keep her hands off herself and she gets herself poisoned. Meanwhile, back at the castle, they have just received a word from one of the Korin's familiar that Inumaki and Usato have both gone missing. Kazuki is beside himself after hearing this and asks if a search party has already been assembled, and then King assures him that the search party will be dispatched in the morning. But this isn't good enough for him, so he prepares to head out by himself. Before he can leave, Rose gets in his way and assures him that there is no reason for him to be concerned for their safety. After all, Usato has survived for far worse, and if he is alright, then Inumaki will survive as well. Rose was right, and after curing Inumaki's poison, he had a great lunch of fish, and Usato is really grateful that he has his own personal speaker with him. Inumaki doesn't like being compared to a piece of camping equity, but she is getting pretty sleepy, so Usato suggests that they should turn getting some rest, and for that they first let her sleep first. But she feels bad after making him heal her, so since she got here and she wants him to rest first so he can recover his magic. As the rain begins to pour, Inumaki calls over to us and see if he is still awake, and after he responded, she asks how he feels about being summoned. That was a tough question since he wants to go back, but at the same time he now has a reason to stay here as well. He doesn't want to go back, and Usato has a good idea why. It's because she has nothing left for her in their original world, so she is much happier here. Usato sees nothing wrong with her way of thinking, and he also wanted to change when they first got here. He trained so hard just because he didn't want to become a burden to her and Kazuki, but now he wishes to protect them along with all the people. Inumaki feels the same way, so they agree to forget about what happened and they just worry about saving this kingdom first. The next morning, they begin making their way out of the forest where they encounter something in the bushes. They are on the edge at first, but it turns out to be Blurine and the others who finally found him. Aruku is exhausted from having to chase Blurine all the way here, and once he is healed, he explained that they are searching for Usato and Inumaki when Blurine suddenly started sprinting, so they thought he might lead them to Usato. Unfortunately, Blurine was fast as hell, but now that they all have reunited, they should prepare to leave the forest together. Usato and Inumaki later have a meeting with the king, who is glad to see that they both made out of the forest safely. He apologizes for getting Usato mixed up in this whole mess, but he says that it's fine since it wasn't his first time getting thrown into the forest, and this confuses the king since there should have been no reason Usato ever get stuck in that forest. And this is where Usato remembers that thing about Rose training violating all the regulation. So to prevent fines or whatever the equivalent, Usato lies and covers up for her, and Usato then looks over at Rose and realizes that he has no reason to want to cover for her. After all, the training must have been messing with his head, and it's really frustrating with that. The king tells Usato that they will be reorganizing Inumaki's training for a later date, but for now he wants to have a meeting with the Rose and Siglis. So he dismisses the kids as Usato and Inumaki leave. He can't help but worry about the situation, especially since it seems like they are talking about something really serious, and he is worried that he might get fired, but there aren't many hero candidates available, so Inumaki is pretty sure that their jobs are safe. Just then Kazuki and Princess Celia come up and casually greets them since it has been a while since they last saw each other. Kazuki can't believe that they are up for a small talk, and they both get lost in a monster forest and they are just chill about it. He was ready to dash out into the forest to find them himself if he had to. Inumaki teases him for being reckless, but it's not like she's the one to talk after she got herself poisoned because the monkey was cute. Later that they say their goodbye goodbye to one another as they need to get back to their training. While Kozuki was catching up with the friend, Celia was feeling a bit left out while they are alone. Celia asks if she can become one of Kozuki's friends as well. If it's not too much to ask, she would like him to refer her by the first name instead of the princess. He is fine with that while the king is having his daughter risen up and he is in a meeting with the generals as they give report on what they learned from interrogating the bandits. The bandits were crossing the plains and they noticed that there were far fewer monsters than normal in the forest. And soon after they were attacked by that herd. If they said is true, and it means that the monsters are fleeing something in those plains, and whatever it is not going to be good. They believe that it may be Demon Lord's army, and unlike their last battle, the Demon's army is likely going to call in all the troops that they have available for this war. And that reason they have to get ready to go to war. At that moment, Siglis was getting the troops prepared. After Siglis left the room, the king tells Rose that he has a request for her as well. Normally, he wouldn't ask the head of the rescue squad for something like that, but they are in desperate situation and he wants Rose to go to front line and check how far the demon army has advanced. But it's only natural to assign the task to her since she is the fastest person in the kingdom, and before she goes, she has one more things to ask for her, and for this he gets down to his throne and asks her to consider returning to her post as the battalion commander. She shoots that down real fast and says that she will never return to that post again, as the guilt she bears is far too great and she still hasn't forgiven herself for the lives of her subordinate. That she lost the scar on her eye will never let her forget, and the memory serves as a constant reminder that once you are dead, you die. That is why she created the rescue squad and has definitely been the great help of the kingdom by saving the lives of dying soldiers on the battlefield, and now she has finally found someone who can stare right in death's face and yells, and that psycho Usato is truly her perfect healer, so she is determined to train him until he is a better version of her. That aside, she is going to be carrying him out of the recommission as requested, so the king tell her that he is counting on her. And that night back at the rescue squad base, Usato comes back in from feeding Blurry and finds a letter for him on the table. Rose had left it, and while he was out, he is worried because this can't be anything good, so he opens the letter and finds instructions saying that there will be no training tomorrow, and instead he has to deliver the enclosed letter on the table to the location marked on the map. He asked if any of the guys know where Rose went, but she didn't tell them much before she left. Meanwhile, through the pouring rain, the demon army is building a bridge to facilitate their invasion plans, and Amela is really enthusiastic about her role as commander. However, Black Knight finds it to be cringe and tells her as much as Amela doesn't like his attitude, so even though they were equal before coming out here, she makes it clear that she is the commander here, so he has to listen to her orders. Black Knight doesn't really care and just walks away to wait until the bridge is completed. Amela comes over to see how things are going, and everything's to be going according to the plan, as in few short hours the bridge will be complete and they will finally be able to begin their invasion of the knights. Just then, Amela receives a report from one of her soldiers that there is someone on the other side of the embankment, and it is most definitely a scout for the kingdom, but she says that it's fine to leave them alone, especially since by the time they got back to warn the kingdom, the invasion would have already begun, thanks to the progress they have made in the bridge. However, moments later, a whole tree is chucked into the bridge and it is knocked into the river. Amela is having processing what just happened, as there should be no way a single person can throw a tree that far, but she looks up at the shade that person and she sees Rose standing there, and she is encouraged as Rose just smiles, and she has done what she comes here for. And then she goes back and she thinks that at least she was able to buy kingdom a few more days by destroying the bridge. The next day, Usato was in the town following that map Rose gave him, and the people seem to be staring at him quite a lot, but it is more so because he is acting a bit too normal for someone who is part of the rescue squad. As they happen to pass by a fruit stall he saw last time, he would like to buy some fruit, but he still has somewhere to be, so he says he will come back for it later. He makes it to the location of the map and walks in to see if anyone is around. Ururu comes out to greet him and recognizes the rescue squad uniform, so she realizes that Usato must be the guy Olga was talking about. Then this is the clinic run by her and her brother, and right now Olga is busy examining a patient, but she tells him that he is welcome to have a look at it if he wants. They check in while Olga is healing his patient, and Usato notices that Olga healing magic is much more intense and smooth than his own, so he naturally is specialized in this. And after the boy is healed, both he and his mother are overjoyed, and now that he doesn't need to concentrate anymore, he realizes Usato and Ururu were watching, so they sit down and chat, and Usato finally delivers the letter from Rose. While Olga is reading, Ururu chats with Usato about the rescue squad, and Usato ends up asking why she decided to quit there. And there were many reasons, like even though she is not as good as her brother and she is also specialized in healing others, so she couldn't keep up with training. Meanwhile, Oga reads the letter and you can tell that it's not good news from his expression, but he tries to hide it from others while they continue to talk in. Ururu feels a bit bad that she couldn't handle Rose's training, especially since Rose put everything she had into the training them. But at the time she couldn't make the cut and ended up being slightly scared of Rose. Although she seemed to be much happier now that Usato is around just them, and a man comes running from the clinic in a panic and he tells Oga that there was an accident and there is a guy who fell off a roof on his own. So Oga took out other two people if they need any help, and Oga agrees to come and ask Usato if he is willing to be joined. So they all head to the scene. Usato makes it there first and Oga still has terrible stamina, so he catches up later. There was 3 people laid out on the floor bleeding. So after checking, Oga is sure that yeah, these guys are messed up pretty bad, and he asks Usato to take care of the one of them while he and Ururu handles the other. Usato prepares to heal the man's injured leg, but he is starting to guess himself because he has never had to heal an injury this severe before. If they had end up in the battlefield and it is going to have to heal these injuries that are worse than this. Oga tells him that calm down and relax because to heal others all you need is to believe that he can do it. And that remarks what Kazuki said. And Rose having complete trust in his capabilities, if she believes in him, that he can believe in himself. They eventually manage to heal all the wounded people and then they return to the clinic. Ururu and Orga praises Usato for doing well in the situation, so they ask if he come by to help once in a while. They could use an extra set of healing heads. After that, Usato leaves and Ururu turns serious as Orga informs Ururu that they have been called up for the war as the demon army is approaching. There are no certainties in war, but Orga is sure as his sister that everything will be going to be alright. Then Usato picks up the fruit and he wanted to head back to the rescue squad base. He is suddenly grabbed by a little girl who says only you could see it and this is why it is a future that he can change. Usato has no clue what this little chick is talking about, but this confusion turns to shock when her eyes begin to glow. Usato then sees shocking image of war. That even more horrifying is that he sees the Dark Knight kill his friends. Usato's heart beats rapidly and he is horrified that he can barely move. The girl explains that she has just done him a great favor and now he has the duty to repay her. Usato still can't believe that what he just saw, and the mysterious girl just run off. Usato chases after the little girl as he determined to question her about why he saw the death of his friend. The girl watches him nearby and thinks about how Usato is the only one that can change the future. Usato questions a guard if he has ever seen a little fox girl, but he hasn't. Rose arrives to scare the guy away, so Usato pies him for being terrified by Rose. Usato can understand him, though as Rose can handle him, she wants to hear more about how scary she is, but Usato managed to change the conversation into where she has been. Rose reveals that she destroyed a bridge that the demon army was trying to make while she was scouting. Usato has a serious smashed mouth, so he points out that she did a lot more than just some scouting. But this girl just got him manhandled again, and Rose explained that she has seen the fox girl before and she appeared there 2 years ago. The fox girl is only 12 years old and she somehow managed to evade bandits and kidnappers to arrive at the capital. Demi-humans like her are extremely valuable to bandits since they are prized for their physical appearance. More apparently, some even have an aptitude with rare magic. Usato wonders if this rare magic is able to show people vision of the future that they hope would never happen. Rose reveals that there are rumors of beast men who can use magic called precognition. They are extremely rare that even if they existed, they would be well guarded back in the beast lands. Rose asks what made him bring up to a question like that, but Usato doesn't want to tell her the full details of what happened to him. So he explains it away by saying that he just read about it in a storybook, and Rose is suspicious that she has nothing more to say, but for now she tells Usato to head back without her because she needs to give her report to the king about her scouting mission. Back at the castle, Rose was just completed her report to the king, and thanks to her hard work and halting the enemies, although she may have slowed them down, but they are definitely working on rebuilding that bridge right now. So they have a few days at best before they can complete it, and this means that they need to prepare for the invasion immediate. So he calls for Kazuki and Inumaki to be brought in for a meeting so he can briefly tell them the situation. Then 2 of them have received the urgent summons and wonders what could be so urgent they needed to be called immediately. As they turn the corner, they bump into Princess Celia and Inumaki treats her like she normally does. Although things have been seem awkward between her and Kazuki, the king is still waiting for them. Celia says that they can go ahead and speak with king now. Meanwhile, at the rescue squad base, the guys are snoring as loud as they ever her. Usato lays in bed, unable to sleep. He can't get the vision of the future out of his head, but Usato knows what will happen, so he can possibly do everything to stop it. As the only thing the fox girl said that and she ran away is that there is a future that he can prevent, but he doesn't understand how he could possibly do that. Just then he sees some floating light outside the window, and since he is the only one awake, he gets to check it out, and only he finds Kazuki watching outside. The two of them sit and have a chat. Kazuki apologizes for coming here at this time, and since Usato probably needs to be up early in the morning for his training, but he says that it's alright since he wasn't sleeping anyway. Kazuki tells Usato that he was just called into the meeting with the king earlier, and he was told that the battle with the demon army will soon be beginning. He was expecting that, so he wasn't too surprised, but Inumaki seemed almost happy to have the chance to be soaked in demon blood. However, when he thought about having the fight and kill on a battlefield, he lost his nerve and ran out of castle, which is why he is here. Now he admits Usato that he is just scared to fight a war, and back when he was training with Celia, he had to fight a monster with legs froze up after he saw them for the first time. The monster put a fast fight and he tried to fight them, and once they finally managed to defeat one, they had been taking this whole situation way too lightly. When he fights the demon, arming they are going to try to kill it with everything they have got, and that's not something he has to come. And yet people of this kingdom has been so kind to him and supported him that they are relying on him, but he is not sure if he can live up to that expectations. Then Usato understands how he feels and begins to tell him that he thought of him back on the earth, that he always thought Kazuki was a cool guy who knew what to do in every situation, but now he knows that even he gets scared as well. It must be tough having to live up to expectation of those around him, but just he knows he doesn't have to keep living up to those expectations. It's good to try to help others, but that should make him feel like it's wrong to put himself first. Sometimes Kazuki asks how Usato feels about the war, so he starts thinking about a bit, and he states that he will be joining the wars on front line. He wants to save the people who get injured, and it's not like he isn't scared of this. However, he thinks that it's just what he has decided to. Even though he could end up dying, he wants to be able to save the people he cares. That includes Kazuki as well, and he will do what he can do whether Kazuki goes out to fight or not, because either way he is still going to be his friend. Seeing Usato shows so much resolve in the face of immense danger for the sake of his friends make him more confident, so he decided that he will fight to protect everyone he cares about, as well as to make a promise to each other that they keep the kingdom safe. But then Usato realized that everything he just said was hella cringe, so he just want to forget about it. Unfortunately, Inukami was hiding nearby the whole time, and she listened to a whole conversation, and she tried to make fun of his speech to get a reaction out of him, but he's not in the mood, and he tells her to get prepared for tomorrow. Besides, he knows the reason she's here is because she got worried about Kazuki and followed him here. She confirms as she says everything worked out because Usato managed to convince him to fight. Although Usato still kind of wishes Kazuki didn't have to fight in this war. Inumaki asks if the same goes for her, and he would rather she didn't put herself in danger, but her situation is different from what happened earlier, because she already made up her mind to live in this world and for the excitement, so fighting is something she really wants. She realizes he is right and decides to end their chat for the night, since tomorrow is going to be a big day for the next day. The king makes a declaration of the demon lost army has been sighted near the capital, so it is only a matter of time before they get invaded, and he plans to intercept the demon army in the grassland, so they managed to repel the demon army last time. But for now the enemy has surely strengthened their forces, so it won't be easy battle as it was the last time. However, that doesn't mean all their hope is lost in the kingdom, as kingdom has also made effort to strengthen its force, and now they have heroes Inumaki and Kazuki on their side now, who have pledged to their best to defend the kingdom, and they have also got the aid of the rescue squad that was crucial in preventing casualty during the last war, and he is sure that the people will still be worried, but he has complete faith that the kingdom will emerge victorious this time again. And then tomorrow the fight begins and they will win. So we later see Kazuki all dressed up in his suit of armor for the battle, but before he leaves there is something very important, so he must go. Heads over to Celia's room. Celia was sitting on her bed when a maid comes to inform that Kazuki has arrived and he was here to see her. She answers the door and Kazuki apologizes for banging in on her like this, but she is actually happy that she gets to see him before he leaves. He informs that he will be leaving the battle tomorrow, and she is worried for him, but she tells him that she hopes he has success in battles. Before he goes, Kazuki tells her that he will be back finally, calling her by first name and making her blush at the same time. He didn't confess his love or anything because that would have been a definite death flag. Back at the rescue squad, Yururu is marveling at how cute Blurin is and asks if Blurin will let her pet him. Usato has nothing against her petting Blurin, but she may lose a finger or two, especially how that he has gotten bigger. She doesn't think that will be an issue since animals always love her, but as she tried to pet his head, Blurine smacks her head away. Repeatedly, she is on the verge of tears since he won't let her pet him. But that's when Rose Bunny shows up and gets her on the shoulder. She tried to pet it as well, but even the bunny won't let her touch it. While she is dealing with the rejection, Usato notices that Orga is being rejected by gravity, so he goes to save him from dying. Before the battle begins, Orga thanks Usato and apologizes for all the trouble they are causing. But he doesn't really mind since Ururu seems to be really cheerful despite it all, and explains that she looks cheerful but she's pretty nervous right now, and since this is her first time heading out into battle as well, she's just acting the way to cope up. Just then, Usato gets called into Rose's room because she has something to tell him, but he's a bit nervous now because he has never been called into her room. Before he's a little worried about what may await him, Usato heads up to Rose's room and she tells him that they need to talk about something. She asks if he remembers what his role on the battlefield is, so he answered that he is meant to help the injured with her on the front line, and he's right, but Rose says that won't be doing that at the beginning. The other member of the rescue squad will carry the injured to the rear at the first, then they will heal them along with Oga and Ururu. Usato asks why they weren't be on the first line from the start, but she says that there isn't a point of being out there so early since there won't be many injured people, and with all the chaos that is bound to happen, non-combatant are going to be easy target. She also has one more thing to tell him, for when he does head to the front, he is going to have to make sure that he only heals people who need it, otherwise he will just be in getting in their way. Now that she has said all she wants to say, so she presents Usato with her box and tells him to look inside within the box, and there is a uniform she had made for him, and it's made to help him stand out on the battlefield, and I have got to say that he looks great in this. Rose has one more thing to tell him before they depart. Just because he can heal himself doesn't mean he is immortal, so he had better not take his life for guaranteed. He never intended to die, but Rose tells him that she has known people who said the same thing and ended up dying anyway. If he does any of that self-sacrifice crap, and she will make sure that she kills him with her own hand before the enemy can. Usato gets the point what she is trying to say, and he promises that he will save everyone including himself, and that's bring a smile on Rose's face. As Usato leaves her office, he still isn't sure what happened to that vision the fox skull showed him. He knows that he has to do, which is to make sure Kazuki and Inumaki do not die. The long journey to the battlefield camp has begun, and it is taking far longer than Ururu had expected, and since they haven't even reached the halfway point yet, they are heading out this far because they want to put so much distance as possible between themselves and the kingdom where they have to fight. So the demon army at the front of the carriage, Usato is riding with Rose and asks what demons are like since he has never personally seen one. So she explained that they look more or less than human, but they have twisted horns and tougher bodies than humans do, as well as they have a larger mana pools to draw from, so they surpass most human in ability. Rose asks if Usato is feeling scared now that he knows they are so powerful, but he already knew that would be dangerous to begin with, so this changes nothing. Besides, he already knows an even a scarier monster that he has forced to deal with on a regular basis. Rose doesn't appreciate this comment, but instead of the usual beating, she just remains silent all this time and continue leading the horse. While having flashback of the last war, we look back at the time the king was addressing her general before sending them into battle, and formally informs them all the sighting of the demon army near the outskirts of the kingdom. There have been no attacks thanks to the effort of Rose, but there is no telling when casualties will begin to pop, so they need to be ready to as a precautionary measure, and they will assign guards to the merchant traveling outside the kingdom to maintain the supply chain. And he leaves the detail of this measure to his generals and organize. After the initial address, Rose is met out in a hall and asked what she thinks of the recent movement of the demons. She can't be sure, but if she had to make a guess, she would think that they are getting ready to begin an invasion on the kingdom. Although this is still just a speculation since they don't know they actually have enough forces to pull something like that. Thankfully, the king's orders their forces and they are ready to deploy it at any moment. But they hope it doesn't come to this point where that is necessary. Siglis heads up to handle some of his army commander duties, and as Rose returned to hers, she thought to herself that it may be a good idea to get the rescue squad ready for deployment. If necessary, while she has deep and thought, we see a girl run up to her and try to get her attention. The girl cries from the pain of Rose Gorilla's strength punch, but Rose doesn't care about her tears and scolds her for interrupting her. The girl gets back up and starts walking alongside Rose, and she asks if the demon army is really going to invade, but that just get her another smack on the head because she was clearly eye-dropping on Rose's conversation earlier. Owl tried to be optimistic and says that they just need to shove the army back and forces them to retreat. But thinking so simply could prove to be fatal error. They arrive at the base and all the squads greet her. But she can tell that she looks a little pale, so they ask if something bad happened. After that, Rose declares that it's time to get everyone back into shape, and the other 9 blame all for bringing this torture upon them. So they take out their frustration on her and all begs for help, but Rose just ignores her. 1 week later, more reports reveal that the demons are attacking monsters in their territory. So Rose is sent to investigate. Rose informs her knight about this mission, and she explains that she was told that there are 10 to 30 enemies. All try to encourage the ones, but they still blame her for the intense week of training. Although all tries to point out that they are stronger but this just gets them more upset. Rose knows that Kokoro would be able to detect any monster for them, but this mission is too dangerous. So she has decided that her bunny friend will have to stay home. And this time Rose reveals to everyone that she will be joining them on the mission. And everyone gets excited since they are invincible when the commander fights with them, and they will be able to fight to their fullest. Since Rose just heals them whenever they get injured, all encourage them to give it their best. And they finally all agree with that. And next morning, Rose and her knights make their way through the forest, and they don't find anything on the first day. So all explains that the commander has decided that they will explore the best side of the forest. And the area is pretty dangerous, so they will have to leave their horses. But the others wonders if they should check the other areas first. And it's not necessary since she has a feeling that something is on the west side, and the others takes a moment to think about it, and they happily agree to do what she says. As they respect her as their deputy commander, it's time for them to rest, so Rose decides that she will take first watch. Everyone sleeps, but Rose can tell that all is still awake. Rose offers to knock her into unconsciousness, but all has something to ask her. She wants to know why Rose chose her as deputy commander. All thinks that she's pretty average, and that's nothing special about her. Rose has trained everyone to be the best, but all points out that she's pretty much just runs errands. So Rose points out that all hasn't messed up all that, so she has no complaints. All explains that she has always been doing her best, and she is shocked when Rose reveals that this is why she will be able to hand over the titles of commander to her. One day, all freaks out because she thinks the others would go crazy, and she thinks that how she used to be. All was always stubborn and never listened to orders. She didn't like no one. She was able to control her, and whenever anyone complained about it, she would shut them with her strength. All was famous for being a strong knight that didn't listen to her superiors. And then she met Rose. She stayed the same stubborn person. The only difference was that Rose didn't let her walk all over. Rose ragged her when all didn't listen and chased her down when she tried to flee past the border. Then when all tried to punch her, Rose hit her so hard that she lost consciousness along with all the memories of the incident. Rose doesn't remember hitting her that hard, but all thinks that she must be joking. All explain that she never wanted Rose to get better of her. No matter how hard the training was, she always wanted to succeed and hated losing it, and it didn't seem like much to Rose, but it was huge change for all, as she has never had someone to look after. And to the very end, without giving up, everyone else eventually got fed up, and Rose continued to challenge her, and all thinks the others knight feel the same way. Rose understands them, which is why she is the only one that can be their commander. Rose calls her a brat that doesn't want to leave the nest, and all is stunned that this is how she responded to her touching. Rose agrees that she understands them, which is why she should be trusted to pick their next commander. She explained that she didn't pick all at random. She picked her because she never gives up and always look forward. That mentality is the stable foundation that the other stand on. As long as all just keeps being herself, the other will follow her. All seems to finally understand what Rose was trying to say, but Rose just wanted to knock the cheeky grin off her face, and Rose points out that the world is always changing, so all would have to learn, and she has to learn to accept that however the fact she was once their commander, that will never going to change. There is no need to think about it so deeply, and all will finally understand that Rose tells her that it's time to sleep, and always shocked to see that everyone was listening. They all declared how much they trust all, and points out that they always listen to her when it counts. They all embarrassed, and she wants all the compliments to end, so she threatens to beat them all before the demons do. The next morning, they find sign of the demons hunting monster coming to Linga territory just to hunt a monster. That doesn't make any sense, so they wonder if they are doing it just for fun. They suspect that there must be some other reason, but they were interrupted by a loud noise, and they find some demons nearby, and they were discovered instantly. So Rose tells the other to stay back and demands to know what the demons are doing in their territory. The demon explains that he actually doesn't like this mission, but he must do as it will benefit greatly in the future. He refuses to explain further, so Rose tells him to leave if they go home quietly. She she will let everything else slide. The demon is impressed with how bold she is and he declares that he cannot allow them to leave. So Rose leaves all in command and explains that she won't be able to give orders while she's fighting with the demon leader. The battle begins and all declares that they will show the demons the power of their teamwork. The demon tries to attack but Rose shows her insane speed and she knocks him back. The demon doesn't even have the time to think as Rose follows that attack and quickly and eventually send him flying. Rose already knows that she can't land a good hit as this demon was able to manipulate the being in a split second. Rose leaves the rest to her knight and she goes after the demon leader. She battles it out with him and stops his movement by launching giant trees at him. Rose shocks this dude with her relentless barrage of attacks. But this isn't even close to being done. Rose continues attacking, so the demon admits that he has never seen a human with her speed. She has no interest in talking though. She just wants to wash his face and the demon surrounds her with his wind blades. Rose is just as confident as ever and the demon thinks she's stupid to risk her life by crossing the wall of wind blades. But he is shocked when Rose begins healing herself. He just now realizes that her magic is, but it's too late that she lands a punch on the demon and now he knows she's a healer and she has immense physical strength and high speed healing that make her a strong fighter. He acknowledged her as a monster but they introduce themselves that this guy name is Nero and he summons his weapons and declares that he will now kill Rose. Rose has no fear at all and she proclaims that she will beat this guy. Before he can look back at the other fight, one dude uses an ability to put a demon to sleep or lands an attack as well and declares that they need to show the power of Rose's personal unit. Rose was busy fighting Nero and she realizes that Demon's sword is imbued with a curse and she cannot let it touch her. No matter what just happened, then Nero does manage to cut her face but she lands a counter attack and he's sent back near the others. And Rose heals herself. She knows that Nero isn't done just yet. She demands that he get up and Nero is impressed by her and her subordinate that they are quite skilled and easily the most troublesome group he has ever encountered. Nero thought that true heroes no longer existed among the humans and he had changed his mind. However, as Rose and her group have their biggest obstacle, Nero's sword began to glow with dark and he declares that era in which demonkind trembles before the humans will end as their lord will soon awake. This lord is merciless, savage and cruel, but he brings the demon blessings and victory. This guy shocks Rose when he releases a bunch of power and states that he must defeat her group so that they can awaken their lord. The fight begins to turn as one of the Rose subordinate lands an attack but she realizes that the demon isn't affected. The demon proclaims that they are simply weapons of the demon lord and if they lose their life they will just take them down with them. Rose can tell that she is in trouble so she rushes to her and she is stopped by Nero. The demon stays true to his word and takes the girl's life, horrifying everyone. Another member of Rose group gets eliminated and it becomes clear that those demons no longer care about their own lives and Elle tries to calm everyone down but it's no use as another of their comrades fall. Nero takes credit for this and that turns out that he points out that he urged his men to sacrifice themselves. Rose attacks him with rage but Nero points out that she has lost her composure and he cuts her eye. She tries to heal it but Nero reveals that this shot cut any mana and her wound is cursed and she won't be able to heal it. Her troops are begging for some healings as they are being destroyed in the fight. Rose tried to end their fight with Nero but it's no use. She can only see that one of her eye and it's affecting her sense of distance. Nero moves in for an attack and she realizes that it's all over. Nero lands a devastating attack but Rose is shocked when she sees that I will sacrifice her own life to save her. Rose is then horrified to see that her entire unit has been eliminated and Rose feels terrible since they all believed in her. They all thought that they wouldn't die on her watch and she would always come to their rescue. Rose wishes that Elle would have just run away and she blames herself for being so weak. Nero declares that the desire of their subordinates will not be forgotten and he gets in to finish the fight. Just then he's shocked when Rose stops his blade. She begins to beat this guy down and insult him for what he said. The angry Rose points out that a demon like him who urged his own troops to sacrifice themselves could never understand and she continues to absolutely destroying Nero and explains that sacrificing oneself in battle is the ultimate humiliation. Rose has completely taken over the fight as she pins Nero to a tree and she angrily states that she will now kill him. Rose can tell that her body is about to fail but she is determined to be the one to end Nero's life. Just then a young girl named Amila appears and she was worried about Nero and Rose can't understand why this girl is saving Nero while Nero is a demon that sacrifices on subordinate. So she can't believe that there is one that wants to save him. Rose tried to stop her from rescuing him but that girl reminds her of All and they leave and the real All calls out to her. All is greatly injured and Rose makes her way to her trusty subordinate and she tells her to stop talking so she can heal her. All explain that healing her will be impossible since she has got deep cut. Rose finds that this has to be true as their healings fail. fails, but she is determined to keep trying. All tells her that it's hopeless, but she states that she has no regret. She was happy to fight by Rose's side, and she knows that the others felt the same way. Rose can't believe that she is hearing and refuses to let her die, but all uses her last word to ask that Rose must should never change. And she dies, and a look around the battlefield reveals the massacre that just took. And Rose screams in agony later. Rose reports to the king that the demon lord will soon be resurrected, and Rose states that she is no longer has the right to call herself a knight. Because of this, she was like for him to remove her as a battalion commander and revoke her knighthood. Everyone is shocked, but the king does as she wishes. Later, the family of one of her fallen subordinate approaches her. She shamefully apologizes for not being able to protect him, but they thank her for at least bringing him back so they could see him one last time. They explain that their own son was a complete delinquent since he just watched anime recap videos all day long. However, when he started serving Rose, he became a changed man. Rose returned to her empty home and cries in a corner, and a month later, Siglis goes to visit her and they discuss how the king came to see her. Earlier, their goals are both the same and they are checking on to make sure that Rose hasn't decided to follow her troops to the afterlife. Rose considered it for a moment, but this is just upset Siglis. Rose tells him to calm down. Though as she wasn't being serious, Rose explained that the demon curse was only temporary, so her wounds are starting to finally heal. Siglis wonders why she hasn't made an effort to heal her eye, but she doesn't answer. However, when she is alone, Rose thinks about how the scar is proof of her sin that let her subordinate die, and it's a punishment so she never forgets what happened. Rose has declared to cherish her own life since I will sacrifice herself for it. The question now is that what she will do. With it, she considered getting revenge and defeating as many demons as she can, but that's not the answer. Rose managed to calm herself down and she begins to have memories of everyone. She just now realizes how weak she really is and wonders what a subordinate would think of if they saw her. Now she imagines next to her and points out that they would probably laugh at her. All repeats the word that Rose told her by the fire and reminds her that things change. She must accept that so she can move forward. However, the fact that Rose led them will never change. They both say that they shouldn't overthink everything, and Al is glad to see that she remembered. All will reminds her of last words, and those were that Rose should never change. The other appeared to agree with that, and they reminded her that Rose would punch them right in the face if she saw them acting the way she is. Rose realizes how foolish she has been for just focusing on their death. And her subordinate were not like this. As always, they look straight ahead with a smiles on their face. Then Rose snaps out of her depression and vows to never show her weakness again. Her subordinate leave and Rose promises to be someone that they all can admire. Then Rose removes her bandages and declares that she knows what she must do, and a massive battle against the demon lord will be coming soon. So she has decided to create a force that saves lives of as many soldiers will be sent and their doom. But she vows not to let them die. Her force will need at least 5 people, and 2 of them have to be healers to start with. Most importantly, though, they will need someone like herself, someone who doesn't just heal, but a healer who can run around the battlefield taking out threats so that they can do impossible for a normal person. But if she can find someone like that, then they might have a chance of fighting by her side without dying. Back to the present, Rose tells Usato that she reveals that she is glad that she found him. Rose points out that she doesn't even know how precious his own life is. Not just by healer, but he can get as strong as he has. Just by training, she asks him to wonder what the world would be like if he had more healers like herself. But Usato just uses his smart mouth to say that the world would be destroyed. Rose explained that she came up with a technique to train herself beyond her limits by using healing magic, and it's incredibly difficult. And Usato has all traits and she has ever wanted in a healer, and she is sure that she won't die. So Usato takes in all the compliment, and Rose takes one look on his cheeky grin and is disgusted by elsewhere. After that, Emilia is told that the bridge has been completed, and the demon knight is glad to hear that. Emilia reminded him that he can go wild as he wants. When the battle starts, this guy is confident as he wants the battle might end in an instant since they are just up against humans. Emilia reminds him that he must not underestimate humans as they have the ones known as kidnappers. These kidnappers steal the wounded, but the knight isn't worried about them. He just thinks that they run away all the time, but Emilia points out that they have actually monsters. The knight is glad to hear that, and they might be able to make things interesting. He doesn't care what they are as long as they make him feel alive. Sometime later, the Linger army has finished settling up his camp and wakes up and thinks about how it's totally time for battle. Suzune was woken up as well, and she wonders what Usato thinks about her. Usato isn't really too sure what to say, but she helps him out and tells them how pretty it is that not all tough as it is. She also boosts her lightning magic and it doesn't hinder her movement at all. Usato assumed that she values her armor over her cute things, but they are not true. As Suzune reveals that she grows cactus back home and it doesn't matter cactus has to be cute, but Suzune takes offense on that and Usato tried to get her to calm down, but it is of no use. So Kazuki has to be the one to save him. Suzune refuses to leave until she makes Usato hers. But Kazuki explained that Siglis wants them to see. Siglis explained that they are only a half hour before the Demon Lord's army arrive, and the plan is to land a strike with the barrage of magic, and then Suzune and Kazuki will enrage the enemy together. The mission will be carved open to a path to the enemy general. However, if they are able to do that, they are to defeat the general. Then the two wait for their enemy at the border on their base, and Kazuki wonders if Suzune is worried about Usato. Suzune is impressed at how well he can read people, and she reveals that she is worried and he also felt empowered through because Usato accepts her for who she is now. She expected that Usato might fall for her, but the fact that he hasn't yet, that means that he is at something. She has done waiting for him to warm up to her. The only thing he can do now is call for help from Kazuki, and like a true hero, he shows up as soon as he sensed that his body's virginity was in danger. Then he drags Inumaki off to have a strategy meeting with Siglis, but she promises to come back for Usato later. With that more or less taken care of her, he looks back into the wasteland and he is feeling a little more calm now. The army have been posted in formation, all ready to intercept the demon army with a primitive strike. From the information they got, there are scouts. The demon army should be arriving in about half an hour, and once that happens, they are going to launch a magic attack with an opening that Kazuki and Inumaki will engage the enemy forces in combat, while rest of the knights are trying to clear the path for them, and if possible they would be best if they were able to take the commander's head. They shouldn't do anything too risky as they head out of their post, and Kazuki and Inumaki ask if she happens to be nervous about the upcoming war. But her behavior earlier with Usato was out of character, meaning that she was probably trying to distract herself. Kazuki can be really perceptive when it comes to other people, and while she's a bit nervous, she's also somewhat excited to feel the thrill of the battle for the first time. She was a lot of different than she was back on the earth, but she has no reason to hide it because Usato has already accepted her and all her weirdness, and Kazuki missed that portion of character development, so he would love to hear about it later. But right now, they have to focus on the battle ahead. Just then, the two feel something coming from the wasteland, so they prepare themselves to begin the fight. Then, the human army is now ready to launch an attack as the demon army is in full view. So the mages begin casting their light magic at them, give Kazuki and Inumaki the chance to get in close. They will be super harding the attack, so there is no room for hesitation. However, after their attack landed, it was revealed that the army they saw was nothing more than an illusion. This poses a problem since that was an illusion. Then the enemy could coming from another place. And then at any moment, Siglis looks over and spots the army coming from the southwest. So he calls his army to reposition themselves to face them. Meanwhile, Rose gives her rescue squad orders for the battle. Everyone who is dressed in black is tasked with running out into the battlefield and bring any injured soldier back from the front lines. Orga and Ururu and Grey is going to stay here and heal any soldier that get brought back. Since they lack any combat ability, they will be guarded by Aruku over here. What if things really got bad? Rose instructs them to run away. As for Usato, he will head into the battlefield with Rose once the injury begins to accelerate. But until then, he will stay here as well and heal those who are brought back. Now that everyone knows their roles of the battlefield, Rose orders them all to get to their post and prepares for the battle. Usato is worried about Kazuki and Inukami, that they are out on the battlefield, and it's normal for him to be worried, but Ururu reminds him that you will be heading out with the battlefield as well, and you need to worry about your own safety. And moments later, the first set of injured people are returned to the tent. Surprisingly, Usato and Ururu, since they didn't think it would happen so soon, Rose reminded them that this war has so many injured and they will be coming dozen immediately. They started healing one of the injured soldier, but as he rolls her over, he can tell that the injury is really bad, and his hands begin to shake from the shock of seeing the wound, but he needs to focus on healing, otherwise she is going to die. As he heals her, she begins to mutter something about a giant snake out of the battlefield, reminding Usato as one of them who fought in the forest. A while back, the demon army may have created another one, but he won't know for sure until he sees the war zone. Speaking of which, the soldiers are getting absolutely demolished by the demon's snake monster, while the Black Knight stands off in the distance and watches, thinking about how humans are really big creatures. Just then, he gets snuck up into some random soldier who managed to stab him through the back. For a second, the soldier thought he had won, but the Black Knight still stood there unfazed. The moments later, the soldier had same damage for the wound inflicted on him. He doesn't understand what happened, but he is determined to make it back to the camp so he can inform all the others about this demon knight. Unfortunately, he mentioned his plan out loud so that the Dark Knight was about to finish him off. Right then, he was lucky as a stinky butter balloons were thrown, and while he was distracted, the soldier got grabbed by someone from the rescue squad and was being taken away. The Dark Knight isn't sure what to make of the situation, but he remembers that Amila has mentioned something about humans who kidnapped dying soldiers from the battlefield, and he finds it pretty interesting as he hopes the humans can continue doing things that will entertain him a little more. And speaking of the entertainment, the knight notices a sparks of lightning coming from Inumaki and on the other side of battlefield, so he heads over to check it out. They are at the camp, their number of injuries steadily increasing, and Rose thinks that it is about time that she and Usato head into the battlefield. She asked Usato if he is ready to go, and he said most certainly. Then she leaves things in the tent up to Ururu and Orga while she and Usato are gone. As she leaves, she asks Aruka to make sure that two of them are kept safe inside. Then Aruku ensures that no matter what, with her safety guaranteed. Rose heads out with Usato, and while they are running, she talks to him about something she heard from the injured soldier. There is a demon out there with black armor who seems to use some really dangerous magic, so we should be careful of him. Hearing the Black Knight, Usato remembers the moment when the fox shows him the glimpse of future, and then he had received of a Black Knight killing Kazuki and Inumaki, and that leaves him a little bit shaken. Rose barks over to ask if everything is alright, but Usato says that he is fine. Rose takes the opportunity to give him some advice and ask if he really won't kill anyone during the war. Usato doesn't plan on doing this, so he's sincerely going to play his role to save people. But things don't always go that way, and you have to plan, and even in the plan, you may have to find himself in a situation where you need to kill in order to survive. And at some point, if that time comes, she wants him to be prepared. So she shares a special technique she developed for someone like him to take someone out. Usato takes her advice and thanks for her. He helps her and sees that it's best if they split up. So Usato will head over to the right while she goes left. As Usato makes his way into the chaos of the battlefield, he is shocked by the brutality he witnesses. Still, his job takes procedure, so he has to seize a demon about to kill one of the soldiers. He rushes in and grabs the guy while he also dodging the attack. He is capable. Rose does the same things, and she doesn't bother while dodging the attacker. She just stomp on the demon's face. Usato had just finished healing the injured soldier and tells him to rest a bit before rejoining the battle. He then runs off to go help the injured soldier that on Inumaki's side. She has taken just a whole squadron of demons almost single-handedly, and she is thankful for her help. In the battle, she tells the commander to get the injured troops back to the rear so they can be healed, but she will keep pushing forward. She takes a moment to look at the damage she has done to the demon's army, but for some reason she isn't enthusiastic about it that she was earlier, and Kazuki comes over to ask her how she is doing. She says that she is perfectly fine. They reveal that they have a long way to go before they can reach the enemy's stronghold. She doesn't have this time to slow down. Kazuki tells her about a snake monster he heard that was let loose on the battlefield, but unfortunately they do not have time to go and handle it since their main objective is to reach the demon stronghold. Inumaki agrees with him, but before they can head for the stronghold, they find themselves cornered by Dark Knight. They don't know what he is, why he is here, but they can tell that he is no ordinary demon. The soldiers are quaking at his mere presence, so Inumaki tries to warn them to keep their composure and avoid engaging recklessly. Unfortunately, they were too jumpy and they attack Black Knight, and his squad were managed to stab him through the chest. But Inumaki doesn't understand why the Black Knight would let them do so without a fight. Black Knight knocks away everyone, and moments later the damage they had done to him was reflected back to the soldiers. That led to several abdominal stabs. Kazuki tried to use his light magic to fight, but Inumaki stops him because she has a bad feeling about this, and the light magic just barely scraps the Black Knight, but he still isn't fazed by it. Kazuki asks why she stopped him, so she explained that she thinks Black Knight is using some sort of reflection magic, so any damage that do to him will be reflected back into them. And her theory is proved right as Kazuki's shoulder begins bleeding from the wound he had given to Black Knight. Black Knight is impressed by how quickly Inumaki managed to figure out, but now that she knows his power, he can't let them live alive. The two of them seem to be strong, so he's going to enjoy watching them struggle as he kills them. Usato is still out running in the field, and he suddenly starts getting visions of the future again, and it's incredibly painful that he can't heal himself. So he wonders if this means that something bad is about to happen to his friends. He isn't able to run as effectively anymore, so he nearly gets caught lacking by a demon, and he was able to dodge it on the way but still can't move much afterward. Luckily, he gets saved by the guy who had received help earlier from him, and once he get back to his feet, he asks for direction where he can find the heroes so he can go and help them. The soldier tells him that they should be in the front, so he runs off to add them. Meanwhile, Kazuki and Inukami are wondering what to do about the demon in front of them. So Inukami proposes a plan of action and Kazuki believes it to be so dangerous to attempt. But it's not like they have many other options. Once their strategy meeting is complete, Black Knight attacks them with his tendrils. So they dash forward and Inukami initiates the plan by blasting a dust cloud in front of the Black Knight. Now with his vision diminished, Inumaki and Kazuki launch a series of light cuts all over his body to test the limit of his reflection magic. Unfortunately, he was still able to reflect all the damage back to them. Despite not being able to see it happen, however, one cut on his back wasn't reflected, so she wants to try one more thing. Kazuki is a spectacle, but he goes along with her, and Inumaki uses her magic to increase her movement speed, while Kazuki uses his light magic to blind Black Knight, as her bet was if Black Knight can't sense the attack coming, then maybe he can't use reflect on the attacker. He stabs him through the throat, and it looks like it may actually working since he seems to be struggling. Then she tells Kazuki to take the opportunity to strike while he is incapacitated. But then Black Knight reveals that he was just faking it the entire time. He reflects the damage to Inumaki and she starts coughing up blood. Kazuki has it worse since his guts have been impaled. And Black Knight does not need to know where the attack is coming from, but he is able to reflect it so he can choose when he wants to reflect the damage as well. Which is why he left that wound on his back, just to mess with them now. And now the both humans heroes have essentially been doomed to death. Usato is still making his way to their location, but it looked like he may have been too late to save them, but he get a flashback of when Inumaki and Kazuki were back to Earth and just finished a presentation that promised to bring good change to the school district. She credited his hard work for preparing the document for their successful meeting, but Kazuki believed that it's really all due to the trust of the teacher. Just then, Kazuki realized that he had forgotten his bag, so he asked Inumaki to go on without him, and which led to the fateful encounter that day with Usato. So he lost his umbrella. Her life is currently flashing before her eyes, and it's incredibly boring, but she is glad that she got the chance to meet Usato. Along the way, the battlefield falls silent as the heroes of the kingdom have just slain, and the morale of the demons is all at high right now. The Black Knight walks over as soon as the cop says and prepares to finish their job, so there is no chance to recovery. However, before he can bring the sword down, he turns around and finds Usato right there with a punch ready, and he charged up Black Knight and he got hit. But once he regains his bearings and looks at the scene, he horrified to find that he may have been too late to save them. After all, however, Kazuki is still breathing, and as long as there is still the slightest bit of life in them, Usato was going to be able to heal them back to the full strength. From the darkness of death, Inumaki slowly wakes up and she sees Usato's face for the first time. Since this war started, she glad to be alive, but the battle is not over yet. Since Black Knight has gotten back up, until it turns out that it is a girl under the mask, and the very fact that Usato's punch left visible damage means he must be doing something right. Black Knight is enraged that she got punched in the face, so she charges at him, but Usato didn't come here for a fight. As soon as he got Inumaki and Kazuki in his arm, he starts running away at max speed, and one of the surviving member of the demon army tries to stop him from running away by swinging his axe at him, but he just jumps overhead while Inumaki sees the opportunity to assist the fast of a lightning attack, and the rush continue. With this escape plan, the Kingdom Knight do everything in their power to keep some distance between the heroes and the army. The break gave Usato enough time to almost fully heal the wounds of both Kazuki and Inumaki, so they would be fine now. Inumaki is all about to tell Usato about the nature of Black Knight magic, but she gets interrupted when Usato spots a sword flying in their direction. The sword is dodged, but that was close one. He still needs to get back to the other sword, so if he can heal their wounds as well, Inumaki warns him again that Black Knight has the ability to reflect all the damage inflicted upon her. However, the attack he landed in her earlier actually left a mark, so she asks what kind of attack he used to pull off this. Black Knight doesn't know what Usato did that able to deal her damage, but she is going to pay him back for taking his head off. Usato honestly doesn't want to fight, but at the same time he won't be able to do this job with Black Knight still standing in the equation, so he's left with no other choice but to square up, and he starts running towards Black Knight, and she retaliates by using her armor to form tentacles to strike at him. Usato is surprised by the armor versatility, but even it can reflect the damage from his strike back into him. He can just heal himself, so he goes for it and kicks one of the tentacles, yet he gets no back damage. However, he is confused by this outcome, so he just assumes that Black Knight may be out of mana to reflect attack, and it would be take too long to figure out what's going on, so Usato just take the opportunity to run up and punch Black Knight in the face once more. Black Knight managed to dodge that, but it was a fake punch, so now she's wide open. Usato delivers the real haymaker and knocks her around that she's getting angrier by the second, so she sends more tentacle strike at Usato, but it's like it's not going to do any damage and it's not even hitting him. Meanwhile, Inukami is watching in amazement while Usato solos the enemy single-handedly. That wiped both Kazuki and them. Kazuki managed to regain consciousness shortly after and he wonders if Usato healed him to save his life. Inumaki confirms this and directs Kazuki attention to the battle taking place in front of them. Usato is flying off the strike from Black Knight, but one managed to slip through the defenses and stab him, though the hand Black Knight mockingly laughs because she believes she has finally defeated Usato. But then tentacles start collapsing due to his healing magic. Even he is confused why all these terrifying attacks have no effect on him, so he keeps up pressure on Black Knight regardless he is constantly in a healing state. And on top of that, he was healing his own wound and fatigue, wasn't probably healing his enemy at the same time with each strike. He appears in front of Black Knights and charges up an intense healing attack, which knocks her back to a mile. His attacks aren't being reflected because thanks to his healing magic, all the injury he is causing are being healed immediately. So the damage Black Knight is taking is solely from the power of punches. Usato is throwing that he is giving her a major concussion and Black Knight collapses on the ground and she can't seem to accept that she is being beaten. So she powers up her armor once more and causes a shockwave that throws Usato back. She then makes her sword really big, but Usato isn't intimidated by it and he knows that he must keep everyone safe, so he charges with his most powerful healing punch yet, and that clashes head on with Black Knight's swords, and in the end the punch connects with Black Knight and the hit is so hard that it has to be replaced 3 times on the highlight reel to blast the light. Then we can see the all across the battlefield the Black Knight's armor begin to disassemble, and as a result of Usato's magic he is finally victorious, and thanks to his healing punch, now that Black Knight has been defeated and tied up, Usato has gotten the chance to finally heal the rest of the injured soldier, and they thank him for all his help, but not just for healing their injuries, because he managed to defeat Black Knight. The demon army lost morale and retreated a moment later, and then Inumaki begins questioning him about a special move he just used against Black Knight, but Usato corrects her saying that it wasn't really anything special. All he did was imbue his feet with healing magic, just like Rose taught him to do, and Kazuki then comes over and informs the two that a giant snake that the demon army brought with them has moved to the front line, so they will be trouble if they don't handle it. Usato was about to go join them in fight, but he gets dragged back by Rose, who just arrived on the scene. She heard that the heroes were on the brink of death over here, but seeing that they are fine right now, she wants a full explanation on what went down there. After the recap of events, Rose is impressed by how much Usato managed to accomplish on his own, and he saved the lives of the heroes as well as many soldiers he captured and a powerful enemy, and in doing so he also managed to down the morale of opposing forces. But now all that is done, Rose thinks that it's about time they head back to the base camp for the day. Then Usato goes to meet up with Kazuki and Inumaki and tell them that he's going to leave now and they had better not get themselves almost killed again, and he's not here. While they are still here, they should at least take back a couple of enemies for fun. Rose and Usato begins to run off the battlefield, and over on the demon side of the battlefield, it was just reported that Black Knight has been captured. According to the soldier who saw it happen, she was completely defeated and even got put on a highlight that she can't believe someone actually overcame Black Knight's magic. So she assumed that it must have been bug of one of the heroes. However, she was mistaken that the heroes got their asses handed on to them, and one of them actually defeated Black Knight was someone dressed in a white outfit. Bearing that description, Amila immediately thinks that it has to be Rose, but it wasn't her. This time there is another healer in the kingdom. Now knowing that just how destructive healers can be, Amila makes the smartest decision to withdraw the army from the battle and retreat. She asks the doctor to call the giant snake back so that they can leave, and they could go for at least another attack, but they could leave their base vulnerable to attack. Plus the kingdom still has Siglis on their side and he is a beast on the battlefield. Doctor understands her reason for wanting to retreat, so he attempts to call the snake back. However, there is a bit of an issue that said that a snake is already fighting the heroes, as Kazuki and Inukami deal with that. Usato and the rest of the healers are back at the base healing, and they all help injured people so that they can get to. While handling his next patient who was poisoned, Usato sees a bright flash in the sky which came from Kazuki and Inukami. They have just successfully defeated the snake, and cheers erupted from the soldiers who are glad that they are no longer have to get poisoned by that thing. Rose goes over to Usato and tells him that things are wrapped up here and the enemy is retreating, but they aren't going to chase after them since they do still have a larger army than the kingdom for now, and the plan for the kingdom is to just keep casualty to a minimum, and so they prepare for next attack. They may come to their way another time. Rose tells him that he did a great job coming back to her alive, but he has used too much mana today, so he ends up passing out. After waking up, Usato is back from the the front lines and it's spending his time relaxing with Blurin. He tells him that everything about the battle that took place, and now after he returned, he was brought before the entire army and publicly awarded for a great service, as it was first time he had ever received such recognition for something. It was so kind of nice, but that aside, Blurin seems to have gotten a bit chunky while Usato was away. He denies gaining any weight, but Usato do not lie. While Usato was still pulling on Blurin's tummy, then someone comes up to him with a message that someone from the castle stopped by and asked Usato to come over when he had some time. Usato had no idea why they could be calling him back again, but it seems pretty urgent, so he had to better hurry over there. Soon, if he is going to be going through town, he warns him that he had better be careful, although he doesn't mention what that means. Usato should be careful about that. However, Usato heads into the town as soon as he finds out that he is immediately surrounded by many people who want to thank him for his hard work. And on the battlefield, eventually, Usato heads into the town and he was surrounded by a crowd of townspeople, and Usato is overwhelmed by all their attention. So he doesn't notice the mysterious girl is nearby. Usato gets away from the crowd and the guards thanks him for saving his comrades. Usato points out that everyone was just doing their part in the war and the soldier also protected him. The kid is glad to hear that, then Usato wouldn't mind having him as his bodyguard one day. And kid's friends points out that he is strong enough to join the Royal Knights. Usato goes to speak with the king, who asked him to lend them his strength. Usato of course agrees, so Siglis reveals that they need his help to interrogate the Black Knight. Usato wonders if she has been violent to others, but they reveal that she surprisingly doesn't hold much loyalty to the Demon Lord's army. She has been answering their questions willingly, but they haven't been able to get the most critical information from her. They want to know the magic system of the commanding officers and their powers, but she has agreed to answer these questions only if she gets to see Usato's first. Inumaki escorts him to see the Black Knight and she promises to protect him if she tries anything. Usato is quick to point out that Suzune already lost to her before, so she was at least she can be a shield for him. Usato can't even understand how he defeated the Black Knight, but Siglis knows that the Black Knight has an affinity for black magic, and it seems to have been cancelled out by Usato's healing magic. Usato realizes that their magic cancelled each other out. That means he begins to panic and he realizes something, that his healing magic being cancelled, that means he wasn't healing her, and he wonders if she has received any medical attention. But she hasn't, because she has always been wearing her armor since she regained consciousness. So Usato rushes to see her and he knows that she must have been hurt since she was just taking all his punches directly without any of the healing. Usato fist can shatter bones or soldiers, so he knows that her wounds must be bad. The Black Knight doesn't care, just accept that she will live in pain. Inumaki breaks the tension and points out that she must have some kind of masochist, but Usato is not amused and the knight isn't even sure that why she wanted to see Usato, and assume that it's because she wanted to meet the person that messed up her so badly. Usato makes Siglis let him into the cell and he asks her for her hand. She assumes that he wants to torture her, but he just demands that she listen to him and begins healing. But she panics as it also begins to remove her armor. Usato tells her to just let him heal her. So she calms down and she also realizes that healing feels nice. Usato would like his hand back, but she wants to hold on for a little longer as she has never felt much nice feelings, and tears pours down from her face. So Usato determines that he can't say no afterward. Rose decided that she will personally train Usato again, and since the Demon's Lord army will be attacking again, there is some things he wants him to learn so he can be prepared. And Usato stated that he doesn't want to level up his healing magic. He still can't heal complicated things like illness, but he is disappointed to hear that this is far too much to reach him right now. Now his physical abilities are at an acceptable level, so they won't train her either. Usato wonders what will be doing then, and he is shocked that Rose simply says that she is going to punch him even faster than he can react, and his job is to simply dodge. Rose keeps him from getting away and points out that he relies too much on his healing magic, and his healing magic won't work on the wounds that made by weapons that are cursed. The wounds are so bad that he needs to learn to dodge. Usato gets upset about her wanting to purge her subordinate, but she is just glad to see him so energized. She launches him into the sky and manages to land safely. Rose tells him not to block her next attack, but she blasts him right away in the stomach. Sometimes later, Usato wakes up and determines that all that must have been a nightmare, but it wasn't though, as Rose was just waiting for him to regain consciousness. She points out that he should be happy since she was holding back before. Usato then thanks her and starts training again, retraining the passage, and Usato complains about how horrible it has been whenever he gets close to dodging her attack. Rose throws punches even faster, and Usato vents his frustration on the Black Knight, but she just wonders what he's doing there. Usato doesn't have training today, so he just wonders what the Black Knight will do now, so she points out that she is in prison and becomes shy. Right when she was about to ask him something, Usato leaves and we see that Rose has gone to talk with the king, who has two requests for her. Then we see Kazuki, who is doing some interesting looking training, and Celia explained that he decided that he needs to become a stronger. Usato sees how much Celia admires Kazuki while he trains, and he becomes upset when he compares it to how horrible his training is. Celia explained that they were able to get the information they wanted from the Black Knight, and it's all thanks to Usato, and the king's trust in him only continues to grow. Kazuki trusts him a lot as well, and he begins to point out that he would be dead if it wasn't for Usato. Kazuki stops himself though, since he doesn't want to worry Celia, and he goes back to the training. Usato eventually leaves, but Celia demands to know that Kazuki was going to say this. Kazuki stops himself though, since he doesn't want to worry Celia, and he gets back to the training. Usato eventually leaves, but Celia demands to know what Kazuki was about to say on his way. Usato wonders what will happen to the Black Knight, and he fears that they might want to end her life back in the cell. The Black Knight wonders what Usato was thinking when he came to see her, and she hears footsteps, and she was eagerly wonders if it Usato. And it turned out to be Rose, and she reveals that the king sent her. Rose explained that the Black Knight had two options. First is to spend the whole life in the prison cell, and she begins to tell her the second. But the Black Knight assumed that they want to end her life. Then Rose revealed that she isn't that lucky. She opens the cell, the Black Knight begins to panic, and Rose explained that the second option is to let Rose take her under her command. The Black Knight thinks the idea is crazy, but Rose shows her that what crazy really is that she karate chops her in her head, and then she puts a magical tool on her and steals mana. She declares that watching over her in prison would be a waste to the kingdom resources, so there is only way is to turn her into an asset for the kingdom. The Black Knight thought she had two options, but Rose has already made the choice for her. The Black Knight fears what she is planning to do. Rose knocks her out back home. Usato runs with Blurin to help him get back in shape. Then Rose gives him a good kick since he is supposed to be taking a day off, and he is shocked to see that she has the Black Knight with her. He demands to know what's going on, so Rose explained that she is going to reform her into a knight, as her magic is sealed and Rose will be supervising her training, so there is nothing to worry about. She will do. Then Usato thinks that she will do the same things to her what she did to Usato, so he pies the poor demon. When she wakes up the night, Usato reports to Rose that the knight had a lot of complaining, but she calmed down with a bath and went to bed. Rose then reveals that the king wants to ally with other countries to stand against the demon lord's army. The kings need messenger to deliver to these countries, and he has chosen Inukami, Usato, and Kazuki. Usato can't believe that the king would choose him. Then Rose points out that he has a lot of trust in him, and the fate of the entire kingdom depends on this mission. Then Rose agrees that the king Usato will be able to complete it. In the next day, some Usato fangirls wish him luck and run off to a vendor, apologizes for everything, storming him the other day, but Usato says that it's fine. Usato then thinks that how nice it is all that all town people are reminding himself that his mission will help them protect. Inukami calls it fate when she finds him that, but Usato points out that it's very pretty common to see people at this market. Just then Usato spots the mysterious fox girl and rushes after, and he captures her, and he demands that they should talk, but he's shocked when she says that she has been waiting for him and it's time for Usato to pay her back. She demands that he have to save her mother. Usato is stunned by what the fox girl was saying. Just then Inukami is more concerned with the how adorable she is. Usato scolded her as the fox girl reminds him that he still need to put her down. She introduces herself as Amako, so she insists that they should go somewhere to talk elsewhere. The knight is exhausted from going through Rose's training, and the other guys mock her for being so slow, but she doesn't want to be compared to ogres like them. Then these guys are insulted and demand respect as humans. As they outrun her, the knight collapses and begins to give up, but Rose appears to motivate her. Usato then brought home the fox girl, and Inukami can't stop juicing over her. Usato wonders if Suzune will be a problem for Amako, but she's fine with her because she knows that the hero will keep her secret. Usato is surprised to hear that she knows that Inukami is a hero, but that isn't all. She knows also that Usato is healer, and Usato wants to know why she showed him the vision where his friends met their demise. But Suzune was shocked as this is first time she is hearing about this. Amoko reveals that she had to show him, otherwise the entire country would have been destroyed. Amoko explained that her magic allowed her to see the future, and she was in search for a healer. That is why she left the wasteland, and the wasteland Beastlands are really far away, so she had no choice. She wanted to save her mother and only humans that can use healing magic. But no matter where Amoko looked, she couldn't find the healer. Usato points out that Orga and Ururu are both healers, but Amoko points out that they can't fight. Rose is the only other person to match, but she was looking scary. And Amoko also had a vision that Rose would decline her request. Amoko could tell that Usato would come with her, so that's why she showed him the future. Amoko pleads with him to come to the Beastland to save her mother. But Inukami explained that right now Usato is really important for this country. Just then, Usato shocks everyone as he thinks there might be a way for him to help. They have a mission to deliver letter to other countries, and there may be a way where he can stop by the Beastland to help out. Usato goes to get permission and tells Amoko to scream if Suzume tries to do something. Then Usato tells Rose about the fox girl and she demands that must immediately tell the king. Future seekers like Amoko are very valuable to the Beastman, so if they find out that they are harboring one, they might attack them. And this isn't all bad though, since this means that his request has to go to the Beastland might be granted. Because of it, when he returns, Amoko is instantly able to see the future and already knows that they will have to wait for the king to decide. Inumaki gets frustrated, so she see they have deep conversation, but they don't even need words to communicate. But Usato just thinks that she is being a weirdo as usual. Then Amoko heads home, but she thanks Usato first. Usato thanks her since she was the reason he was able to save his friends. Then right one, the guys get insulted when the knight doesn't want to eat his food. She isn't interested in being friendly, but Usato arrives to tell her that she must eat. The knight realizes that this living hell is never going to end, so she has to be thrown back in jail. Just then Usato gives her diary, just like he had, and he recommends that she must try writing everything in it, and she explains that it will make her feel better and better every night. The night begins to warm up a bit and she finally begins to eat. From then, the night started documenting everything in her diary, and the training was brutal, and on the day one, she ran with Usato. She was shocked to see that he has never ran out of breath, and he is an inhuman. And then one day, she heard searching coming from the forest and skipped training to see what was it. Turned out that Usato was getting destroyed by Rose, but the knight was shocked to see that he was still alive. After taking a beating, Rose yelled at him to dodge better, and he yelled back that he can't dodge when she changes trajectory so much. Then the two argued a whole bunch, but Rose told him to save all the tracking for when he can finally avoid her punches. He has only been able to master taking the punches, so they need to keep working until he dodges them. Then Rose instantly disappears, but she is even more in awe when Usato is able to dodge her attack. Usato celebrates too early though, and he gets rocked by a kick. Usato did manage to dodge the first attack, so Rose allows him to finally go back to his normal training. The knight is still in shock, so Rose tells her to continue training under Usato's watch. Usato tells her about how much a monster Rose is, but the knight thinks it's pretty obvious that Usato is a bit of a monster. Usato realizes that he might be asking a little late, but he finally tells her to give her name. She reveals that she is Felm, but explains that not many people have called her. Just then Blurine arrives nearby and he was ready for some exercise, but Felm is upset that she told him her name for the first time and he didn't even try to use. Usato is already busy running with his body. Felm takes off as she refuses to lose to him. That night, Usato explained that Felm exhausts herself by running full speed, while not thinking of the consequences. He healed her, though she could fall asleep. The guys wonder what he did to the poor demon girl, but Usato just says that he ran like normal. The boys point out that Usato's normal isn't really normal for a human, but Usato gets furious and points out that he is far more human than the very captain. The guys prepare to fight, but they are stopped by very angry Rose, and Usato heals himself as they all apologize to Rose. Later, Felm wakes up hungry and overhears that Usato will speak with the king the next morning about delivering the letter to the next morning. Felm sneaks away from the Rose under Rose commands, and Usato brings Amoko with him to speak to the kings. King Lloyd immediately thanked the little fox since she helped in saving the kingdom from telling the Demon's Lord army he would like to repay her for what she did. So he allows Usato to visit the Beastland with Amoko, and thanks to the king, it's clear that Amoko is very grateful. Welsi gave him the details and reveals that he will be going at 4 different countries. First 3 will be to deliver letters and last will be to Beast. Kazuki and Suzune will go to them on the first country, but it will just Usato and Amoko after that. Then the 2 of them will be accompanied by 2 knights and Usato is allowed to choose. Then Aruko is shocked to hear that Usato choose him, and he reminds Usato that he is clumsy. Aruko explains that he can only protect one thing at a time, which is why he guards the gate. Usato assumed that he is declining the request, but Aruko decided that he can leave the job to protect protect the gate to one of his comrades. Aruku agrees to go and swears to protect Usato and Amoko with his life. As for the other knight, Usato has already chosen, so he points in a direction. Everyone is surprised though, and then we just see Happy Goal and Lucky. Blurin playing with a butterfly elsewhere, and Felm is running for her life as she is being chased by Rose. Rose sends her flying because she is furious that she tried to run away. Rose thought that she might be trying to run back to the demon lord to inform him about the letters. Usato delivering, but she ruled out that since Felm was going in the opposite direction. Felm then reveals that her real intention was if she wonders why Rose isn't worried about Usato going so far away. Rose explained that she isn't worried at all because Usato was a healer who is nearly as good as she is, and he's not going to die so easily. But Rose is shocked to see that Felm seems to be worried about him, and she is assumed that Felm was trying to join him on his journey. But Felm denies it as much as she can. Felm tries to just say that she was just getting tired of all the training, but Rose decided to show her what tired really looks like, and she instructs her to run back to the house. And Usato informs Felm that he will be leaving the next day, and he assumed that she will miss him. Felm gives him a good kick and reveals that it's not here that he gets to escape from this hellish training. Felm let out more of frustration and runs off. Rose arrives to inform him that this journey is going to the one that he has nothing expected, and what he is going to experience before the truth is that healing magic is looked down in most places, and if Usato ever encounters someone with this mindset, Rose wants him to beat them up. Usato isn't surprised that she wants him to resort to violence, but she points out that it's the best way to set those kind of people straight. Rose then gets serious to point that this journey will challenge Usato for better or worse. She believes that she is going to expect great things, and that's great for Usato, so that he admits that to himself that he trusts Rose a lot. He then reminded how he wants to continue to live in this world together with Rose and the peoples of the kingdom. Usato goes to say goodbye to the sibling, and Amoko says goodbye to her human caretaker. Then the hero says goodbye to the Princess Celia, and just how much he believes in them. They are all set off their journey, and Usato wonders what kind of adventures await them. So we get a glimpse into what they will encounter. We see a whole host of new and interesting characters nearby. Felm is exhausted and she wonders where Rose is taking her. Rose watches as the group leaves, and Usato spots her. Rose tells Felm to quit wasting her time, and this time she has to get back to training. Usato's friends got his attention, and he refocuses on the journey ahead. Usato finally gotten used to living in this world, and now he is ready to go on his grand adventure, and he wants to do it with mystery and enjoyment. Thanks for watching this recap, and this is the full season of this anime. Please like, share, subscribe and follow for more. Thank you.